Chapter 988. Okay, then we'll act separately later. Qiu nodded and agreed. He drew a stick from the table and threw it down. Guards, put the three of them in custody together. Your Excellency, Big Sister is talking nonsense. She said that to shirk her responsibility. She made up rumors because she couldn't be my husband's wife. Your Excellency, please investigate this matter. Ning Xueqing said loudly and pointed at Ning Kaixian. She is a vicious person. At that time, she fought with Qin Yuru for child D, and then almost made the marriage between the two families impossible. Now she comes to frame us. How can such a woman's words be trusted? Wait a minute. When Shichi reached out to stop the bailiff who came to take them away. What's going on? Your Excellency, this is my big sister, Ning Kaixian, but she is already a dead person. Ning Xueqing pointed at Ning Kaixian and said, at that time, she seduced child Di Yen and then made a big trouble. When she was in prison, she said she was dead. When I saw her again today, I was also very surprised. I didn't expect that she was still alive. Now I don't know who told her what she said. Your Excellency, please make a judgment. Ning Kaixian? Qiu Yu looked at the people below dumbfoundedly. He had thought it was a trivial matter that no one was killed, but he didn't expect that there were so many inside stories. It was about Princess Chen and Ning Kaixian faked her death in prison. Now he really couldn't make a decision on this matter. Check whether there is anyone behind Ning Kaixian. Since she is dead, how could she appear outside alive and well? When Shichi said unhurriedly. He stood up, reached out to press his head and said, put her in prison. Guards, take the three of them away. Qiu Yu also stood up and said in a stern voice. Several bailiffs came over and took the three of them away. Your Excellency, someone helped me. The people who helped me are Child Di and Wang Xingxue. They helped me. Wang Xingxue helped me because he had a plot against me. When Ning Kaixian was taken away, she suddenly shouted. Ning Xueqing still wanted to argue, but she had been taken away. The hall quieted down. When Shichi and Qiu Yu left the hall and went into the inner room to sit down. Lord Wen, what do you think of this? In terms of rank, when Shichi's rank was higher than Qiu Yu's. After sitting down, Qiu Yu couldn't help but ask. Seeing that this matter had been blown up, he definitely couldn't handle it. You go to find Wang Xingxue's concubine. I'll go to Prince Chen's mansion. When Shichi slightly opened the corner of his mouth and said with a faint expression. Seeing that he was so calm, Qiu Yu was relieved. Compared with Prince Chen's mansion, he was certainly more willing to catch Wang Xingxue's concubine. Was that concubine the one who framed Princess Chen? She was just a concubine, so she couldn't do much. He had met Princess Chen when he met first Miss Xiao. Although they didn't talk much, he could tell that Princess Chen was not a person to be trifled with. When she was the fifth miss of Marquis Xing's mansion, she was not easy to deal with. Now her status was higher than his. Even Infanta Yuan, and was defeated by her. Ruiping Great Elder Master, who was so protective of her, did not say anything. It could be seen that Princess Chen was becoming more and more difficult to deal with. Of course, it would be best not to go to Prince Chen's mansion. After reaching an agreement, the two of them split up and went out separately. Hearing that when Shichi was coming, Xiao Wenru was stunned at first and then understood. As soon as Ning Xueqing went to the prison, she would definitely quarrel with Ning Kaixian. Neither of the two sisters was easy to deal with. If they quarreled, it would be a life and death struggle. If Ning Kaixian was smart, she would definitely bring up some old matters. Although it was Ning Xueqing and Wang Xingxue who did those things in the past, Wang Xingxue and Ning Kaixian must have had an unusual relationship before. When it was found out that the woman who framed Yan Shi was Ning Kaixian, Xiao Wenru knew that there must be something fishy about this matter. It was not just this matter. In the last life, Marquis Xing's mansion had handled her affairs and Yan Shi's affairs together, so there must be some connection between them. In this life, it was even more coincidental. The woman who framed Yan Shi turned out to be Ning Kaixian. Originally, it should be Ning Kaixian who jumped off the building, but Ning Kaixian was not stupid. In the end, she shifted the blame to a servant girl. This servant girl served another woman in the last life, but the final result was the same. It had to be said that it was really a coincidence. "Please come in, Your Excellency," Xiao Wanru said softly with a smile. When Shichi must have come here because of this matter. She didn't know how much Ning Kaixian knew. Of course, the more Ning Kaixian knew, the better. When Shichi followed the servant girl in, he first bowed to Xiao Wanru. "Your Excellency, please sit down," Xiao Wanru said with a smile and gestured with her hand. She was now Princess Qin, so she didn't have to bow to Wen Shichi. When Shichi sat down, the servant girl served tea. He picked up the teacup, took a sip, and then put it down gently. He looked up at Xiao Wanru and said with a serious face, "A case that happened before involved Princess Qin." "Involved me?" Xiao Wanru asked with her watery eyes raised and a little surprised. "Wang Shengxue colluded with a woman to plot against Yan Shi, a scholar who lives in Marquis Xing's mansion. This woman is Ning Kaixian, who changed her name to Zhao Qingyu. When her servant girl was about to jump off the building, it was Princess Qin who saved her." When Shichi looked at Xiao Wanru and said, from the words of several Yamen runners, he had speculated that the person present was Xiao Wanru. At that time, she said something that left out her identity. Xiao Wanru smiled. She did say something casually at that time. Later, she thought that it would be easy for someone to find out her identity. Since when Shichi had intervened in this matter, it was not surprising that he guessed her identity. It could be regarded as an accident at that time. Fortunately, it was not a big accident. That day, I happened to go shopping with the daughter of Prime Minister Zhang, the daughter of the heir of Duke Yangtzu. When we got there, I was tired, so I went into the savants building to have a rest. I didn't expect to encounter such a thing. Xiao Wanru looked at Wen Shichi and said without dodging his eyes. Since it could not be concealed, she would not hide it. She was really not afraid of being investigated. The things in the last life were too mysterious. No one would guess that she knew that a woman in the savants building was about to jump off the building and frame Yan Shi because of the memory of the last life. Even though Wen Shichi was extremely smart, it was impossible for him to guess this fact. Therefore, Xiao Wanru said it extremely calmly. "It should be an accident. I didn't write it down in the file and told the Yamen runner not to talk nonsense." When Shichi nodded and said, "Thank you, Your Excellency," Xiao Wanru said with a smile. It would be best not to get involved at that time. Although it was a chance encounter, it would be troublesome if someone with ulterior motives kept talking about it. At present, it was the best way for Wen Shichi to deal with it. "Princess Qin, you're welcome. It's just a trivial matter. Although Princess Qin saved people out of kindness and it was a chance encounter, I'm afraid that I will be involved in it if someone asks about it." When Shichi curved his lips and smiled gently. "It's just that another matter also involves Princess Qin, so I have to come here." "What's the matter?" Xiao Wanru frowned slightly and asked. Ning Kaixian said that Wang Shengxue and Ning Xueqing plotted against Princess Qin on the instruction of Madame of Marquis Xing. On the day when Princess Qin recognized her as her relative, there were many clansmen in the mansion. When Shichi stared at Xiao Wanru and said, trying to find some clues from Xiao Wanru's face. Xiao Wanru nodded calmly and said, "Someone did frame me at that time. If it hadn't been for that accident, I might have lost my reputation at that time." Many clansmen saw it at that time. Later, although they issued a gag order, because there were too many people, it still spread out. Therefore, Marquis Xing's mansion treated Xiao Wanru harshly and wanted to kill her. Because of these things, she was able to go to the Yuhui nunnery to cultivate in seclusion. Otherwise, with the presence of old Madame of Marquis Xing, she could not leave Marquis Xing's mansion for a long time, even to observe mourning for her parents. This would make people criticize Marquis Xing's mansion. Was it ordered by Madame of Marquis Xing? When Shichi's eyes fell on Xiao Wanru's delicate little face, her long eyelashes fluttered twice, and there was still a trace of childishness on her pink and tender face. 3 years ago, she was only 11 years old. At that time, she had lived such a difficult life. After recognizing her ancestors and returning to her clan, she could not even live in her own mansion. When Shichi felt an inexplicable pain in his heart. On that day, he watched the fire in his courtyard. Although he was surprised by the fire in Marquis Xing's mansion, he did not expect that it was such a disaster for her at that time. He clenched his hands hard, and the blue veins on his hands stood out. Then he slowly opened his palms, and there was a trace of bitterness in his eyes. The pain went deep into his bones. Was it too late for him? It should be. Otherwise, it can't be so coincidental. There are too many coincidences. My clothes were provided by Madame of Marquis Xing. How could that set of clothes, which is exactly the same as mine, fall into the hands of a servant girl? Can a servant girl afford to wear such clothes? Moreover, she calculated the time very well. If it weren't for some small accidents that made me delay, I should have taken a bath when the fire started, and the clothes I wore before were also in the water. Xiao Wanru thought for a while and said, there were so many coincidences. If someone had not arranged everything in Marquis Xing's mansion, it would not have been possible to calculate so accurately. However, at that time, Madame of Marquis Xing, who was still very powerful in the backyard of Marquis Xing's mansion, did not do anything to her because of this matter. At most, Madame of Marquis Xing's mansion could make a concession and let her live in Yuhui nunnery. However, the situation was different from the past. At this time, if the past was brought up, Madame of Jiang would not have an easy time. The current Madame of Jiang was not the Madame of Jiang in the past. Ning Kaixian was good. She actually knew how to bring up such a thing. Of course, the relationship between Wang Xingxue and Ning Kaixian was not ordinary before. He even told Ning Kaixian such a thing. Didn't you find it out at that time? When Shichi keenly sensed the meaning in Xiao Wanru's words and asked, in that case, how could I find it out? I am just a daughter who has just returned to my clan. There is no shortage of misses in Marquis Xing's mansion, and there is only one Madame of Marquis Xing. There was a hint of ridicule in Xiao Wanru's watery eyes. At that time, she was indeed too weak. She was so weak that she could only temporarily avoid Marquis Xing's mansion. Obviously, the people of Marquis Xing's mansion knew that she had been framed and almost lost her reputation, but they could do nothing to Madame of Marquis Xing. Chapter 989. When Shichi fell silent for a moment and then opened his thin lips slightly, if there is a chance now, will Princess Chen want to find out the truth? Since there is a chance, of course I will. Xiao Wanru nodded and said affirmatively. But when Shichi said without hesitation. He looked at Xiao Wanru firmly and then slowly lowered his head with a serious look in his eyes. Xiao Wanru was stunned by his decisiveness and raised her watery eyes slightly. Shouldn't Wen Shichi pay more attention to reasons and evidence? As soon as she said so, he agreed with her? Your Excellency, what do you think will happen in the end? With her long eyelashes fluttering twice, she suppressed the strange feeling in her heart and asked. Since Madame of Marquis Xing and Princess Chen are involved, of course it will not end well. As for the previous matter, it is a trivial matter. Wen Shichi thought for a while and said, his official position in the Ministry of Justice was not low, and he was in a high position at a young age. If his father was not the Prime Minister, his official position should be higher. However, even so, a doctor of the Ministry of Justice was old and was about to retire. He was recommended by his superior. Compared with others, his official career was very smooth. Some people even said that after Prime Minister Wen retired, he would soar to the sky, and it would not be too late for Prime Minister Wen to retire. Of course, a person like him would not speak carelessly. Xiao Wanru thought of this answer when she saw Wen Shichi. Although it was not a trivial matter that Wang Xingxue framed Yan Shi, it was indeed not a big deal compared with Madame of Marquis Xing who framed her and made use of Wang Xingxue. Will this matter also fall into the hands of Madame of Marquis Xing? Xiao Wanru asked tentatively and suddenly came up with such an answer in her mind. It should be. When Shichi nodded. Will it involve Marquis Xing? Xiao Wanru quickly thought about it and asked. It is unlikely. Marquis Xing is not Madame of Marquis Xing. When Shichi thought for a while and said bluntly, Your Excellency, please find out the truth. If necessary, I can ask my servant girl to testify in court. After thinking for a while, Xiao Wanru already had a plan in her mind and said, Hey, thank you, Your Highness. When Shichi stood up and said, he had said what he should say, but in fact, he did not want to leave. However, even if he did not want to leave, it was not appropriate to stay at this time. He bowed to Xiao Wanru, turned and strode away. If it was possible, he would prefer not to guess anything. However, after taking only a few steps, he suddenly stopped, turned around at the door, and looked at Xiao Wanru, who was still sitting in the chair and was stunned by his sudden turnaround. When Shichi turned around and walked a few steps to stand in front of Xiao Wanru, his usually calm look cracked and he said, "Princess Qin, may I ask why you kindly reminded me when you first entered the capital city that day?" Xiao Wanru didn't expect that when Shichi would suddenly turn around and ask such an impulsive question. She had always felt that when Shichi was very calm, as if he could deal with everything calmly. But now he looked a little impulsive, as if he had the impulse of a young man. When Xiao. This actually isn't a reminder. It's just a casual remark. Could it be a reminder to Lord Wen? Xiao Wan asked. Ru was at a loss. The things that happened in her past life were too mysterious, so mysterious that they could not be explained. This was also her biggest secret. If this secret was known by others, they might think that she was some kind of evil being. Looking at her watery eyes, which were as clear as water but with a hint of coldness, when Shichi's heart was tugged hard. He clenched his fists hard, took a deep breath, suppressed all the embarrassment in his heart, and bowed deeply to Xiao Wanru. "Thank you for reminding me that day, Princess Qin. It's just a coincidence. You don't have to be so polite," Xiao Wanru said with a slight smile. To Princess Qin, it is a coincidence, but to me, it is a life-saving grace. When Shichi looked up at Xiao Wanru and said in a deep voice, "In the future, if Princess Qin asks me to do anything, I will never refuse." His words were too serious. Xiao Wanru blinked her watery eyes and looked at Wen Shichi's handsome face. For some reason, she had a strange feeling. If there was no follow-up to what happened that day, it would not be a big deal. Wen Shichi's behavior was too serious. Could it be possible that Wen Shichi knew something? After this thought came to Xiao Wanru's mind, she immediately dispelled it. How could he remember anything? It was impossible for Wen Shichi to remember what happened in her past life. When she met Wen Shichi for the first time, he didn't know her at all, so it was impossible for him to have the memory of her past life. After that, Wen Shichi doubted her intentions and thanked her less. Later, Wen Shichi even helped Chu Luiwei plot against her. If it weren't for Chu Luchen, she might not have been able to get through it with her ability. After all, that trick was not a trick that a woman in the backyard could use. Even though she had the experience of rebirth in her past life, she still lacked the ability to deal with the previous dynasty. Thinking of this, she became a little vigilant. What did Wen Shichi want to do this time? Was it Chu Liuyue's intention or his own? If she had just been reborn and had the memory of her past life, she would not have tried to figure out Wen Shichi so maliciously. However, after so many things, Xiao Wanru would not look at Wen Shichi in the same way as before. In her past life, Wen Shichi was kind and harmless and treated her very well. If he had lived a stable life in her past life, he would definitely have provided her with a stable environment. In this life, Wen Shichi had overcome the obstacle and was destined to be extraordinary in the future. Who wouldn't want to draw such a talent to their side? What she had done to him was just a simple and coincidental reminder, not a life-saving favor, so he didn't need to treat her so seriously. "Thank you, Your Excellency. It's just a coincidence. If it can help you, it's my pleasure," Xiao Wanru said politely. Seeing the faint vigilance in Xiao Wanru's watery eyes, the light in Wen Shichi's eyes slowly faded. With a wry smile at the corners of his mouth, he swayed slightly and almost fell. However, he stood firm, bowed to Xiao Wanru, and then turned to leave. "Your Highness, did Lord Wen suffer a blow?" Looking at Wen Shichi's lonely back, Yu Jie asked in confusion. Lord Wen looked much more energetic when he came in. Why did he lose his spirit after saying such a few words? He is indeed a weak scholar who is useless, Yu Jie thought to herself. Xiao Wanru was also very puzzled. She looked at Wen Shichi's back in confusion and thought, he seems to have suffered a big blow. Did I say anything? In particular, the last two sentences were really not out of line. She had a very strange feeling as if it was right beside her hand, but she couldn't figure it out at the moment. "Your Highness, is Madame of Marquis Xing going to suffer retribution this time?" Yuji's thoughts jumped quickly from Wenxiqi to Madame of Marquis Xing, Madame of Jiang, and said excitedly. Although she was confused by the words of the princess and Lord Wen just now, she could still sense some meaning. It seemed that Madame of Marquis Xing was going to suffer. Although Marquis Xing seemed to be fine, it was also a good thing to let Madame of Marquis Xing suffer retribution first. The maids who followed Xiao Wenru all knew that Madame of Marquis Xing had never stopped scheming against their master. It could be said that Madame of Marquis Xing had been scheming against their master since she came to the capital city. If it weren't for their master's intelligence, she would have been schemed against by Madame of Marquis Xing and killed without a burial place and covered with filth. The maids knew best about the viciousness of Madame of Marquis Xing and the first Miss Xiao. No matter which one of them suffered retribution, they would be very happy. Xiao Wenru thought silently and said, "Let's wait first. There should be news from the Ministry of Justice, and there will also be some movements in the Imperial Palace." No matter in the last life or this life, Madame of Jiang had never let her go. After her rebirth, her heart was also cold, so how could she let Madame of Jiang go? Cultivating in seclusion in the Yuhui nunnery would not be Madame of Jiang's end. She would let Madame of Jiang experience the feeling of being deserted by everyone. In the last life, she forced herself to be alone, and all the people around her who cared about her had died. Now it was Madame of Jiang's turn to experience the feeling of having no relatives and no one to rely on. The Ministry of Justice acted very quickly. After Wang Xingshue's concubine, Dongxing, was arrested, she told them everything. She was originally Ning Xueqing's maid, and she helped her master wholeheartedly. Unexpectedly, she suddenly became Wang Xingshue's concubine, just like Ning Xueqing. Since they were both concubines, Dongxing became ambitious and wanted to win more of Wang Xingshue's favor. However, how could Dongxing be Ning Xueqing's match? As a concubine, her life in the Wang's mansion was even worse than that of a maid. The relationship between them as master and servant had long dissipated in the competition for Wang Xingshue's favor. Now Dongxing had no affection for Ning Xueqing at all. Because Ning Xueqing had been suppressing her, she was now full of hatred for Ning Xueqing. As soon as the officers of the Ministry of Justice asked her, she told them everything that Ning Xueqing had told her that day and asked her to do. Everything she had done at that time was indeed to frame Princess Jin. It was said that Madame of Marquis Xing, had arranged the same clothes, the things she had done, and the time. If it were not for Madame of Jiang's secret arrangement, she could not have been so coincidental. In fact, it was a misunderstanding to say that she had an affair with Wang Xingxue, and she was also forced to do it. Because of her words, the Ministry of Justice specially went to Marquis Xing's mansion to seek confirmation. Marquis Xing was angry and annoyed, so he said that he wanted to divorce his wife. If these things were true, he would definitely divorce his wife. With such a vicious wife, he felt ashamed to face his ancestors, his elder brother, his sister-in-law, and even Princess Jin. For this reason, Marquis Xing even punished himself by kneeling in front of the ancestral memorial tablet for 3 days to apologize to his ancestors. Chapter 990. Remember in 1 second, 800 $say that there was no pop-up window for free reading. The Yuhui nunnery, which was shrouded in darkness, became quiet. The door of the nunnery had been locked. The man in black climbed over the wall, entered the Yuhui nunnery familiarly, and went to the place where the pilgrims lived. When he arrived, he looked around and saw that there was no one around. Then he went forward and knocked on the door gently. The door opened, and an old maid came out to answer. Seeing the familiar face of the guard, she flashed to let him in. There was a lamp in the room, and Madame of Jiang's thin face appeared behind the lamp. She looked dim, withered, and a little gray. She was no longer the noble Madame of Marquis who had moved here. "Madame, Marquis has a letter for you." The guard presented a letter. Madame of Jiang took it happily. She had secretly sent many letters to Marquis Xing before, and each of them was sincere. She was no longer the domineering Madame of Marquis Xing said that what she needed to do now was to go back to Marquis Xing's mansion and stabilize the position of Madame of Marquis Xing, which would be a great help to her. For this reason, Madame of Marquis Xing was willing to soften her attitude and no longer contradict Xiao Jing. She only hoped that Xiao Jing would let her go back for the sake of their relationship. Was there good news now? Madame of Jiang opened the letter with slightly trembling fingers. As long as she returned to Marquis Xing's mansion, she could slowly think of ways to deal with Xiao Wanru. Even if she was Princess Qin, so what? Ru Er's future was limitless. One day, she would stand higher than Xiao Wanru. At that time, she could torture her in any way she wanted. But now she had to bear it. Bearing it was a knife above her head, but she would bear it. Even if she hated it the most, she had to bear it. She would not be as impulsive as this time. Madame of Jiang thought so. But when she saw the letter in her hand, she spat out a mouthful of blood on the ink-stained letter no matter how hard she tried. The black handwriting was stained with blood, which looked strange and desolate. Madame of Jiang sat down heavily. Her face was as pale as snow, and she clenched the letter tightly in her hand, as if it was her last life-saving rope. Does the Marquis really mean this? The Marquis said that you should consider eldest Miss and eldest young master. Even if they are not, they are still your children. Moreover, their future is limitless. If others knew that you are such a mother, it would not be a good thing for them. The guard whispered. So, you want me to pay with my life? Madame Jiang smiled. Her smile was bleak and sorrowful. What did eldest young master say? Eldest young master doesn't know about this. The Marquis only ordered me to come down and tell Madame about this. He's afraid that Madame doesn't know about it and will be fooled. The guard reported. Didn't he know? Madame Jiang's smile became more and more desolate and sorrowful. She knew her own son. Since there was such an uproar outside, how could Huan not know? How could he not know? Since he knew, he didn't react. He was waiting for Xiao Jing's reaction. As his son, how could he not know Xiao Jing's reaction? Based on Xiao Jing's character, he would definitely abandon her. She had always known what kind of person Xiao Jing was. It was expected that Xiao Jing would treat her like this. However, her son, who she had always cared about, didn't care about such a thing and pushed everything to the back of his mind. She was so disappointed. Didn't Huan know that she couldn't bear such a thing unless she paid with her life? What about Ru? Does she know? Madame Jiang asked in a trembling voice. She was her last hope. First Miss is also having a hard time in the palace. Marquis means that no matter whether First Miss knows it or not, it is best not to disturb First Miss's life. When First Miss can stand tall in the future, she will definitely not forget the kindness of your birth mother. The guard immediately responded. Obviously, he had already memorized these words. Did Ru really not care about her? When she stood tall in the future, where would she be? The bones on her grave would probably have withered. There was a fishy sweetness in her throat, and she spat out a mouthful of blood again. The blood was like plum blossoms reflecting in the dim yellow room, full of sadness and despair. Clenching the envelope in her hand, Madame Jiang closed her eyes and then slowly opened them. Is there really no hope? In fact, it's not. If Madame can save herself, the Marquis will definitely try his best. However, I'm afraid it's not possible for her to save herself now. The guard said implicitly. So, I have to die to wash away my guilt? Madame Jiang closed her eyes again, suppressed the rolling anger in her heart, and said slowly, Go back and tell the Marquis that I will handle it. If it's impossible, I will not drag him down, but ask him to treat First Young Master and First Miss well and try his best to plan for them. Even if he has a new child in the future, he can't surpass First Young Master and First Miss. The Marquis said that you can rest assured, Madam. First Young Master and First Miss are the Marquis's flesh and blood, and the Marquis has high hopes for them. How can they be easily abandoned? As long as you don't implicate other people in Marquis Xing's mansion, First Young Master and First Miss will be fine. The guard answered. All the words had been prepared long ago. It didn't sound very sincere, but the threat in it could be heard. Only if the people of Marquis Xing's mansion were not implicated could they be safe. If she implicated the people of Marquis Xing's mansion, or to put it more clearly, Xiao Jing, her children would not get any benefits. Madame Jiang spat out another mouthful of blood. She understood the current situation. I won't reply. Tell the Marquis that I know what to do and let him rest assured. But before the matter is settled, he can't divorce me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being immoral. Even if I die, I can only be the Madam of Marquis Xing and be buried in the ancestral land of Marquis Xing's mansion. This can't be changed in any case. If the Marquis is unwilling, then I don't want to hide what happened in his courtyard. Madame Jiang said harshly. With blood still hanging on the corners of her mouth, she looked thin and fierce, like a fierce ghost. She couldn't find her former beautiful and delicate appearance. This was her last concession and the last bottom line. It didn't mean that she wanted to be in the ancestral land of Marquis Xing's mansion, but it meant that only in the ancestral land of Marquis Xing's mansion could her children have the identity of lineal descendants. If Xiao Jing wanted to stay out of trouble and put all the blame on her, it was okay. But if he really wanted to divorce her, then they would fight to the death. There was a secret in Xiao Jing's courtyard, and she found it out carefully later. Yes, madam, I will report it to the Marquis when I go back, the guard said. Under the light, the guard's face couldn't be seen clearly, but he was Xiao Jing's most trusted subordinate. Madame Jiang knew that these threatening words would inevitably reach Xiao Jing's ears. Xiao Jing threatened her with his children, and she also threatened him with his affairs. This was Madame Jiang's confidence, and also the reason why she dared to be tyrannical in the past. Madame Jiang waved her hand and said no more. The guard left silently. The old maid sent her to the door, looked outside, and found no outsiders, and then carefully closed the door. Sitting under the lamp, Madame Jiang tightly held the letter written by Xiao Jing in her hand. Her eyes fell on an empty place, and she was in a daze. Once upon a time, she was just a girl who admired her eldest cousin and wanted to marry him. Old Madame had made it clear to her early on that the purpose of her being raised in Duke Xing's mansion was to marry the handsome eldest cousin. As for her second cousin, he had always been inconspicuous. Second cousin, who was a little chubby, was not bad-looking and was kind when he got along with him, but how could he be the ideal husband in a woman's heart? Eldest cousin was the best. However, in the end, her eldest cousin did not marry her, but Infanta Qinghua. Because of this, she was so heartbroken that she almost couldn't control herself and wanted to rush to Ru and Great Elder Princess's mansion and ask the Infanta why they wanted to take her away. She was an Infanta and could marry any husband she wanted. Why did they have to take her away? After that, she gritted her teeth and only expressed her blessings to her eldest cousin and Infanta Qinghua in front of old Madame. Seeing that she was so sensible, endured all the grievances without crying or making a fuss, and even didn't mention the marriage that old Madame had mentioned in front of her, old Madame felt more and more sorry for her. She immediately decided to let her marry her second son, and after she married into Duke Xing's mansion, she doted on her even more and gave her the responsibility of managing the family affairs that should have been given to Qinghua Commandery. How could she be willing to become the daughter-in-law of a second son? Coincidentally, her second cousin was not the same. Before she married her second cousin, she had always thought that her second cousin was a kind person. After she married him, she found that what she saw was just the surface. Xiao Jing was definitely not the side that she saw, and that side was just to confuse people. The two of them hit it off at once. Then she instigated the relationship between old Madame and Infanta Qinghua step by step. Later, Infanta Qinghua's unborn child was forced to die, and the relationship between the first branch and the daughter-in-law and the mother and son deteriorated to the extreme. In the end, the first branch was forced to leave. At that time, she hated and felt happy. In the future, everything in Duke Xing's mansion would belong to the second branch and her. In fact, this was originally promised to her by old Madame, so she didn't feel guilty at all. Infanta Qinghua was the person who took everything from her. God still had eyes. What was taken from her had to be returned eventually. Everything in Duke Xing's mansion was originally hers, and old Madame had promised to give it to her a long time ago. Now that she didn't give it to her, she could take it back by herself. The reason why her eldest cousin had an accident was all because of Infanta Qinghua. If he hadn't married Infanta Qinghua and married her, such an accident wouldn't have happened. She wouldn't have been as useless as Infanta Qinghua, disliked by old Madame, and left home because of this and finally met with misfortune. Everything was caused by Infanta Qinghua. She was the one who hurt her eldest cousin. Therefore, she enjoyed everything she got with a clear conscience and gradually forgot the person who had once moved her heart. Now, under such a dim and lonely lamp, she thought of her eldest cousin's handsome figure again. If she had married her eldest cousin, no matter what happened, her eldest cousin would not have left her. Tears fell silently. Did she regret it? She wouldn't regret it. She was better than Infanta Qinghua. If it weren't for Infanta Qinghua, her eldest cousin wouldn't have died. That woman was not a good person, and her daughter was even worse. Chapter 991. A small case related to a Juren was not a big deal. Although Wang Xingxue and Ning Kaixian did not get a good result, there were many cases of death in the Ministry of Justice in the past. Such a case was really not a big deal, so it fell into Qiu Yu's hands. However, this small case involved the plot of Marquis Xing's mansion against the current Princess Chen that day, which was a big deal. If Princess Chen was still 5th Miss Xiao, this kind of thing would not cause such a sensation, but 5th Miss Xiao was already Princess Chen. She represented Prince Chen's face. Chu Liuchen's letter was sent in an urgent manner. After opening it, there were only a few words on it, but the writing was strong and forceful. When he wrote, he was even more fierce. Of course, Chu Liuchen had never been a gentle person. The so-called gentleness was just an illusion to confuse people. If people believed it, they would lose. Fight back. I'm here. There were not many words, but it made Xiao Wanru's heart soften and ache. Even though there were only a few words, she could feel that someone was really protecting her. He did not ask about the cause of the matter in detail, nor did he care too much. His domineering and protective intention made Xiao Wanru's eyes become misty. She quietly raised the corners of her red lips, and her smile was sweet and soft. It had only been a few days, but she really missed him very much. In the past, when he was not in her life, she did not care so much. She did not know when she fell in love with him, but only felt that her vision was slightly blurred. It was so good to have him in this life. Yujie covered her mouth and smiled. Knowing that the princess missed His Highness, she turned her watery eyes and asked, "Your Highness, today is the public trial of the Ministry of Justice. Shall we go to see it?" Changing the topic, the princess would not always think about the prince. "Your Highness, many people will go to see it. Shall we go too?" Qin Yu also wanted to go to see it. Of course, they and their maids were happy to hear it. Today was the day of the public trial of the Jiang family. It was said that the Jiang family had been invited from the Yuhui nunnery by the Ministry of Justice and returned to Marquis Xing's mansion. The Jiang family will not go. Xiao Wanru shook her head, and the smile on her lips became cold. Why not? There has been a rumor in the Ministry of Justice that Madame of Marquis Xing will definitely come. Yujie said in surprise. Is it because of her identity as Madame of Marquis Xing? Qin Yu thought of something else and frowned. Can a madam of high rank not go to the hall? Xiao Wanru said slowly, since I didn't go, of course she can. Although her status is not as high as mine, she is also a noble madam. Moreover, she has a daughter in the Imperial palace. Even if Xiao Yanru is not favored, she is still the emperor's woman. He carefully folded the letter in his hand, stood up, walked to the bed, and placed it in the secret compartment. Will she also send a servant girl there? Yujie widened her eyes and said, she would go to the princess's place, but who would Madame of Marquis Xing be? That should be the case. She won't give up so easily. Xiao Wanru sat in front of the table again, picked up the teacup and took a sip. She lowered her long eyelashes to hide the coldness in her eyes. Considering the time, Duke Xing's mansion should come to invite her over. At the moment, she was the only one who could solve the deadlock. Neither old madam nor Madame of Jiang would give up this point. When they came to invite her yesterday, she entered the Imperial palace, so she would definitely come again today. A servant girl rushed in and reported in the corridor of the courtyard, "Princess, someone from Marquis Xing's mansion is here." "Who is it?" Yujie came to the door, lifted the curtain and asked. "She came yesterday." It is said that she is the supervisor nanny of old Madam of Marquis Xing's mansion, surnamed Yu. The servant girl reported. Sure enough, it was Nanny Yu. She was the most dignified one among all the servants in Marquis Xing's mansion, and she served old Madam, so she was in a righteous position. Invite her in, Xiao Wanru said lightly. The servant girl retreated. Princess, why do you invite her in? She is also a heartless person. When you saved old Madam, you saved her life, but she plotted against you with old Madam. Now it is not a good thing for her to come here at this time. Why don't you enter the Imperial Palace and avoid them? Yu Jie said angrily. She had a bad impression of Nanny Yu. I can avoid them once, but I can't avoid them twice. If I enter the Imperial Palace again this time, she will definitely wait for me. I can't stay in the Imperial Palace for the rest of my life. If she waits here, she will definitely meet me. Xiao Wanru raised her long eyelashes, and there was a hint of sarcasm in her eyes. How could old Madam allow her to be absent at this time? Since she could not avoid them, she would not avoid them. Anyway, she had made up her mind not to go to Marquis Xing's mansion to meet old Madam. She was not in a hurry to deal with Marquis Xing's mansion. How is Madame Dong doing? I have secretly spread the news that the supervisor of Prince Yu's mansion did this, but pushed the blame to Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion. I have also revealed the identity of the person who provoked them that day. Who had been silent on the side, replied. After she chased after them that day, she found that the person who implied that Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion had sent someone to stir up Madame Dong's butterfly clothing shop was indeed a supervisor of Prince Yu's mansion. After that, Xiao Wanru asked her to secretly stir up the matter in front of the people of Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion. The identity of the steward was revealed to the public. There were many people in the crowd that day, including people from Prince Yu's mansion and people from Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion. Now it was a good thing for her to make the two families confront each other. That's good. Let Madame Dong deal with it carefully for the time being. This matter is not over yet. Xiao Wanru said meaningfully. I understand. I will keep an eye on Madame Dong. If anything happens, I will report it to you immediately. Qing nodded. She secretly sent someone to keep an eye on Madame Dong, so that she could know the reactions of Prince Yu's mansion and Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion. Neither of the two mansions was easy to deal with. Even if she sent secret guards there, they would be easily discovered. It was better to keep an eye on Butterfly Clothing Shop directly. As soon as there was any movement, they could find it immediately. Butterfly Clothing Shop was now exposed to the public, but it was safe because of the fight between Prince Yu's mansion and Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion. When two tigers fought, one would definitely be injured. Of course, Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion could not compare with Prince Yu's mansion. But Infanta Yuan and was going to marry Chu Liuzhou, so Prince Zhou would definitely be involved in this matter later. Thinking that all these actions were planned by Prince Qin in front of her, Qing became more and more impressed. Master and Master are really a match made in heaven. Not only are they beautiful and pleasing to the eye, but they are also smarter than others. How can Commandery Princess Yung compare with my master? When Nanny Yu came in, she first bowed respectfully to Xiao Wanru, and then raised her head and said with a smile, "You haven't returned to the mansion for several days. Old Madam misses you very much, so she has something to tell you. It's all about the affairs of our mansion. I wonder if you have time to go back, Your Highness?" What does Old Madam want to tell me? Before, didn't Old Madam vent her anger on me for what happened to my grandmother? Xiao Wanru said in an ambiguous tone. With a hint of coldness in her eyes, she looked at Nanny Yu lightly. Her question sounded gentle, but it made Nanny Yu feel guilty when she thought about it carefully. The incident that Great Elder Princess made Marquis Xing's mansion lose face was still in front of them. The reason was that Old Madam asked Princess Qin to return to the mansion, and now she came again. Now Nanny Yu secretly complained in her heart. If Old Madam didn't treat the fifth miss as her own granddaughter, how could she let the fifth miss treat her as her eldest grandmother? Moreover, the fifth miss today was not the fifth miss in the past, and Old Madam couldn't suppress her even if she wanted to. It was said that Old Madam was not kind to the fifth Mississippi. Even if Old Madam tried to suppress the fifth Miss with filial piety, she might not be able to do so. Moreover, there were Ru and Great Elder Princess and Prince Chin. Nanny Yu felt that no matter which one of them, Marquis Xing's mansion could not offend them at present. When Prince Chin left, he even broke the hand of second young Master Chu, the grandson of Ru and Great Elder Princess. It was said that he did it for the fifth Mississippi. For this reason, Nanny Yu felt that Old Madam should support the fifth Mississippi. In fact, it's not an important thing. I just want Princess Chin and Madam to tell the past clearly. If Madam does something wrong, Old Madam will immediately punish her and give justice to the princess. Nanny Yu explained with a smile. Give me justice? This is often said in the mansion. I just heard it. Now it is the Ministry of Justice who intervenes. Even if Old Madam is omnipotent, she can't rob the Ministry of Justice of its business. After the Ministry of Justice makes a judgment, Old Madam can talk about other things, Xiao Wanru said indifferently. Old Madam really thought that everything could be solved in the way of the inner courtyard. She intended to close the door and resolve the matter intimately in the inner courtyard. She would not allow the matter to be made known to the outside and lose the face of the entire Marquis Xing's mansion. Since they were a family, it was easy to talk things over. Even if they did something wrong, they would be punished a little and everyone would be proud. Old Madam of Marquis Xing's mansion had done this many times. Now she came up with this method again. Nanny Yu's smile froze. She felt a little embarrassed, but she had to. Princess, you are Old Madam's biological granddaughter. Of course, you are closer to your daughter-in-law. Will Old Madam embarrass you for the sake of your daughter-in-law? No matter how powerful Old Madam was, she could not ignore the national law and rob people from the Ministry of Justice. Nanny Yu, I won't make things difficult for you. You go and tell Old Madam that I am not in good health recently, so I won't go back. If there is anything, wait for the Ministry of Justice to make a judgment. The national law is more important than the family law. Xiao Wanru sneered and her eyes were cold. She was not afraid of Old Madam, but it did not mean that she was willing to feel Old Madam's shamelessness. As early as when she returned to Marquis Xing's mansion, she knew that Old Madam was not a good person and had no affection for her. She had been unable to resist Old Madam before, but now it was almost the same. Her maternal grandmother's trouble had confirmed Old Madam's unkindness. With these foreshadowing, even if Old Madam went to the Imperial Palace to complain to the Empress and the Empress Dowager, she would have a reason to argue. Princess, it's not good for you not to go back, is it? Nanny Yu said awkwardly. Her eyes fell on Xiao Wanru's pink face, which was as fair as jade porcelain with a touch of pink. She did not look like she was in poor health. Nanny Yu, go and reply. It's getting late. I need to take medicine, so I won't see you off. Chapter 992. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign /say, net wonderful pop-up window free reading. Princess. Nanny Yu still wanted to say something, but Xiao Wanru stood up with the help of Chu Lu, turned around and walked inside, leaving Nanny Yu on the spot. Nanny Yu, please. I'll see you off. Yu Jie stepped forward with a smile, stretched out her hand and said politely. However, how could the politeness of a maid and the rudeness of a princess be comparable? Yu Jie, is the princess really not going back to the Marquis's mansion? Nanny Yu said with a wry smile and didn't move. If she went back like this, it would be difficult for her to explain to Old Madam. Old Madam was still confident that the princess would go back. She thought that as long as she saw the princess, she could persuade her to go back. When she came here this time, she specially told her that she must wait for the princess. If the princess went to the Imperial Palace again, she had to wait here. Now she waited for the princess, but she was refused by the princess, which was more embarrassing than not seeing her. The princess will naturally go back to the mansion. After all, the princess is the descendant of Marquis Xing's mansion, and no one can replace her, Yu Jie said politely. There were many meanings in her words. On the surface, it sounded good, but when thinking about it carefully, it didn't mean much intimacy. Of course, Nanny Yu understood. Thinking that the Marquis's mansion had never been kind to the princess, it was reasonable for the princess to do so. However, her master was Old Madam, so she had to stand on Old Madam's side to consider the problem. Although Old Madam is not very close to the princess, she is her granddaughter after all. How can she allow others to frame her? If it is found out that Madam really did this, Old Madam will definitely not spare her, Nannyu said. Nannyu, rest assured. I will pass on this to our princess. Yuja answered with a smile and directly exposed Nannyu's meaning. Her words made Nannyu feel very ashamed. She saw the first meeting between Princess Chen and Madame Dowager. According to her heart, Madame Dowager was wrong. However, as a servant, how could she dare to persuade the headstrong Madame Dowager? Now she knew that it was useless to say anything, so she could only return to the mansion. After arriving at the mansion, she got off the carriage and went straight to see Madame Dowager. Old Madam was sitting on the couch by the window, with Madame of Marquis Xing, Madame Jiang, and first young mistress Zhao Shiran sitting beside her. Hearing that Nannyu came back alone, Old Madam's face darkened and she asked Nannyu to come in. As soon as she entered the door, Old Madam asked with a cold face, "She didn't come back?" Nannyu lowered her head and said, "Old Madam, Princess is not well." Not feeling well? Wasn't it because he didn't want to come back? How could she be so unfilial? I'm going to the Imperial Palace to complain to the Empress about her unfilial crime. Old Madam slammed her hand heavily on the table, and her anger rose. Old Madam? Seeing that the situation was not good, Nannyu hurriedly persuaded. Mother, don't be angry. This matter has to be considered at length. Madame Jiang interrupted Mother Yu's words and said, she was wearing her old clothes. Because she was too thin, the clothes of the past could no longer hold her up. They looked very loose and not close-fitting, completely lacking the elegance of a marquis's wife. She didn't look as noble as she used to be. She looked gloomy and seemed to be stared at by a poisonous snake. Nannyu involuntarily stepped back and stayed away from the Marchioness. Take our time to think about it? How do we take our time to think about it? She did not intend to enter the house of the Marquis. Fine, since she did not intend to enter the house of the Marquis. So, we might as well remove the entire first branch from the family tree, so that after 100 years, this branch will be unfilial. Old Madam became more and more annoyed. They are all ungrateful. Don't they think about who made them rich? It was not only because of Xiao Wanru, but also because of Xiao Yuanhao. He had lived in Great Elder Princess's mansion for 3 years. In the past 3 years, he would come back at first, but later he never came back. Later, he never came back unless there was something important. It seemed that Old Madam's grandson was raised for and Great Elder Princess. Although Old Madam was not short of grandchildren, she couldn't help but count him in at this time. Mother, these things were indeed my fault. I didn't think it through. Madame Jiang lowered her head, wiped the corners of her eyes with a handkerchief, and shed a few drops of tears aggrievedly. There was no one else in the room except for the trusted maids who served their master. Seeing Madame Jiang's words, they all lowered their heads. They were all unwilling to hear such secret words. Zhao Shiran sat in the chair with her head lowered, and the corners of her eyes twitched slightly. She was also unwilling to hear such words, which sounded like the words at the beginning of The Secret. This kind of thing had little to do with what she was looking for, so she didn't want to know it at all. However, now that she had come, it was not easy for her to leave. Madame Jiang was going to lay all her cards on the table to her. Mother, you know what happened at that time. Who knows whether she is real or not? My eldest brother's bloodline is unquestionable. She is an outsider. I really don't know, so I asked Wang Xingxue to test her. I didn't expect that the couple had evil intentions. After that, I was also angry, so I demoted Ning Xueqing to be a concubine and let her follow Wang Xingxue. Madame Jiang continued. Her words seemed to be true and false, but it sounded reasonable. Old Madam said nothing with a sullen face. The room became quiet. Zhao Shiran didn't even stir the handkerchief in her hand. She just looked at her hands quietly, as if she didn't exist and didn't say a word. What Madame Jiang did had nothing to do with her. Even if she heard it, she didn't exist at that time. She didn't have to take this kind of thing on herself for the sake of Madame Jiang and go against Princess Chen. This Princess Chen was not someone to be trifled with. The two of them had fought once, and Zhao Xiran even regretted that fight. Not only did he not get any benefits, but he also alienated Princess Chen. He lowered his head and did not say a word. What should we do now? According to fifth young lady's character, she will never be kind. Now even if I want to call her back, she may not necessarily come back. After a long time, old madam said in a deep voice. It was not that she may not come back, but that she didn't care about it at all. Old madam's words could be regarded as a humiliation for herself. Madame Ru, and great elder princess came to make trouble before and pushed all the blame on old madam. She said that old madam was not merciful. Now people in the capital city are talking about this. The Empress Dowager and the Empress have long known it. Even if old madam goes to the palace, there may not be anyone to help old madam. Nanny, you carefully spoke for old madam. Old madam couldn't say such weak words, but it was true. After Ru and great elder princess made trouble, it was really difficult to deal with this matter. Since old madam bore the reputation of being merciful, it would be useless to go to the palace to report Princess Chen. Princess Chen couldn't bear the accusation of unfilial. Moreover, there was Ru and great elder princess, who was not easy to deal with. Now she should also be watching old madam's actions quietly. As long as old madam's actions were a little out of line, she would make more trouble. Mother, fifth maid is now Princess Chen. She didn't grow up with you, so she is not as obedient as other granddaughters. But now you have to beg her. In fact, it doesn't matter what daughter-in-law does, as long as she doesn't bring harm to the reputation of Marquis Xing's mansion. Our mansion can't afford any more changes. Madame of Jiang wiped the corners of her eyes again and said. Her words of compromise were for the sake of Marquis Xing's mansion wholeheartedly. Thinking that Marquis Xing's mansion today was indeed not the Duke Xing's mansion in the past, old madame's eyes also turned red. What she said was very true. A granddaughter who didn't grow up with her was not filial and had no affection for her. If she had known this earlier, she wouldn't have recognized her. Anyway, if she had recognized her, she would be a heartless one. It was better to raise these people in her mansion well. Now it was too late to say these things. What about now? She has grown up and is no longer obedient, old madam said sadly. Mother, in fact, there is a way. Madame of Jiang said in a low voice. Then she stood up, walked to old madam, and knelt down heavily. What is it? Tell me. Old madam gritted her teeth. Now no matter what method it was, she wanted to try it. As long as Xiao Wanru came back, she still had some confidence to let her settle the matter. No matter what Xiao Wanru wanted, she would agree to it, but she couldn't ruin the reputation of Marquis Xing's mansion. Old madam's reaction was expected by Madame of Jiang. At this moment, Madame of Jiang would definitely give up on her. She gritted her teeth secretly with hatred in her heart. This damned old woman was not ignorant of what had happened at that time. She just pretended to be deaf and dumb and watched her do things. Since she didn't stop her, it meant that she acquiesced. This damned old woman didn't like Xiao Wanru at all. But now she pretended to be so pretentious, which was really annoying. Mother, return the title to the first branch. Madame of Jiang said. Have you lost your mind? What nonsense are you talking about? Old madam couldn't help standing up and glared at Madame of Jiang. Zhao Xiran also raised her head in astonishment. Although she had some other thoughts, she agreed with old madam on this point. The title should fall on her husband. Wasn't this what Marquis Xing's mansion repeatedly said when Marquis Xing proposed to marry her? Mother, I'm not crazy. But if we don't say this now, Princess Chen won't come back. Even if you are sick, she won't come back. Madame of Jiang covered her face with a handkerchief and cried, I have no choice. If Princess Chen doesn't come back, I can't persuade her. What should we do? Even so, you can't say this. Yunhao is so young. What does he know? How can the title fall on him? Moreover, he now lives in Ru, in great elder princess's mansion. He is getting more and more distant from our mansion. He has to respect his blood relatives more than when he was young. Old Madam said in a deep voice, "Just invite him over with the excuse that I am sick." Madame of Jiang's words reminded her. After thinking for a while, she added, "Then hint about the title. Just say that the title needs to be discussed." She didn't believe that Xiao Wanru wouldn't care whether she came back or not after saying this. "Mother, what if it's not enough?" Chapter 993. Qian. Update the latest chapter on treating the crown princess as soon as possible. Madame of Jiang's eyes flashed and she asked, "How could it be not enough? Get up and get ready. It's all because of you. Why is Madame so evil? If I had known this, I wouldn't have let my second son marry you. I thought you were a good person, but I didn't expect you to be a troublemaker." Old Madame was embarrassed and became angry. She pointed at Madame of Jiang and scolded. Madame of Jiang didn't dare to say more and stood up with the help of an old maid beside her. "Mother, go quickly. I get angry when I see you," Old Madame said angrily. She turned around and walked inside, leaving Madame of Jiang here. Madame of Jiang's eyes were cold and gloomy. She glanced at Old Madame's back with hatred and then gritted her teeth. "Mother, let's go back to have a rest and wait for Grandma's response." Zhao Shiran also stood up. Old Madame could leave, but she couldn't. She came over and held Madame of Jiang's arm and said, "You are also useless." Madame of Jiang pushed Zhao Shiran away and scolded. Her son was filial, but he forgot his mother's situation because he married a wife. After returning to the mansion, he just came to see her when he came back, and then he was so busy that she couldn't see him. It must be instigated by Zhao Shiran. Zhao Shiran was not prepared and was almost pushed down. Fortunately, her servant girl was also smart and reached out to hold her. Madame of Jiang held the hand of the serving old maid and left without looking at her. Zhao Shiran looked at her back thoughtfully and didn't say anything for a long time. Madame of Jiang's situation was a little strange. It seemed that her husband had to go and have a look. It was okay for Madame of Jiang to get into trouble, but she didn't want the whole trouble to be related to Marquis Xing's mansion. From this point of view, Zhao Shiran and old Madame of Jiang's thoughts were in the same direction. It's useless. If I had known she was such a daughter-in-law, I wouldn't have married her. What's the use of marrying her? I can't control that bitch, and I can't let Huan inherit the title. As soon as she returned to the room, Madame of Jiang showed a fierce face and sat down heavily on the chair. There were still some old people in her courtyard, but many new faces had come in. After asking, she found out that they were all Zhao Shiran's work. It would be strange if Jiangshi liked them. There were only her and the old maid she brought back from the Yuhui nunnery in the room, so she didn't have to be afraid of anything. In fact, this old maid was not the one who served in the Yuhui nunnery at the beginning, but now no one cared about this kind of thing. "Madam, don't worry. This kind of thing can be handled in the future. The most important thing now is Princess Qin." The old maid comforted her in a low voice. She stood by the window and looked out. When she found no one was paying attention to them, she breathed a sigh of relief. What's so good about that little bitch? How could she marry Prince Qin? My son is the most outstanding and beautiful one. I don't know why these people are so blind. Madame of Jiang slammed her hand heavily on the table and said with hatred. Her daughter's life was that of the empress. Now she was in the palace and became the old emperor's woman. Moreover, she was not favored. How could Madame Jiang accept this? How could her daughter, who was raised in the palm of her hand, be compared with Xiao Wanru, a daughter who grew up outside? Madam, if Prince Qin dies, Princess Qin will be nothing. The old maid's voice became lower and lower. Madame of Jiang laughed happily. She unconsciously laughed and even bent down. Yes, that's an illness. Yang Zi, it doesn't matter if he dies. The little bitch won't even know how she dies. Great, it's really great. Madame of Jiang seemed to see Xiao Wanru being tortured to death in pain with no one to rely on. She laughed louder and louder with a hint of madness. Madam, please lower your voice. The old maid became anxious. She knocked on the window and made some sounds. This is Marquis Xing's mansion, not Yuhui nunnery. Please be careful, madam. Otherwise, you will have no chance. Her words reminded Madame of Jiang. She immediately stopped smiling. Her face, which was full of smiles just now, immediately became gloomy again. Will that invalid really die? As long as you do as I say, madam, she will naturally die. The old maid nodded. That's good. This bitch wants to fight with me. She doesn't know if she will survive. Madame of Jiang sneered. Madam, listen to me. The old maid approached Madame of Jiang's ear and whispered. Her voice was so low that only Madame of Jiang, who came close to her, could hear it. She nodded as she listened. Marquis Xing's mansion sent Nanny Yu for the second time. When Nanny Yu entered Prince Chen's mansion again, she saw Ru and Great Elder Princess instead of Xiao Wanru this time. Seeing Ru and Great Elder Princess sitting in the chair, Nanny Yu's heart trembled. She was just a servant. Even old Madame felt scared when she saw Ru and Great Elder Princess. In the past, when old Madame and Ru and Great Elder Princess fought, old Madame always had the upper hand. But now, when they fought again, Ru and Great Elder Princess had the upper hand. Nanny Yu stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Ru and Great Elder Princess glanced at her slowly and asked, Is old Madame of your mansion ill? Nanny Yu almost didn't know what to say. She swallowed and said, Great Elder Princess, our old Madame is indeed not well. That's a coincidence. Princess Chen is also not in good health. Just now, we invited an imperial physician over. Let the imperial physician follow you to Marquis Xing's mansion to see old Madame of your mansion. Don't say that Princess Chen is not filial. Princess Chen is still ill, so she has to worry about her grandmother. And Great Elder Princess interrupted Nanny Yu. This made Nanny Yu speechless again. Old Madame was pretending to be ill. How could she let the imperial physician follow her to see her? I don't dare to bother the imperial physician. It's not a serious illness. It's just that she is in a bad mood and has a relapse. She has taken medicine. She just wants to talk to Princess Chen. As an old person, sometimes she is as stubborn as a child. If she insists on seeing Princess Chen, I can't help her. Nanny Yu said in fear. Princess Chen is also ill, and she is seriously ill. She can't go back. I have to stay here to take care of Princess Chen, lest she doesn't take care of herself and runs around. If she gets even more ill, it will be troublesome. And Great Elder Princess said lazily. She picked up the teacup on the table and gently lifted the lid to skim the tea foam. Great Elder Princess, can I trouble Princess Chen once? Old Madam. Nanny Yu was so anxious that her forehead was sweating. Bang! The teacup in Ru and Great Elder Princess' hand fell heavily on the table and shook. What do you mean once? Princess Chen is ill, but your old madam still doesn't intend to let her go. What does she intend to do this time? Let your Marchioness off and not pursue her? Hold your Marchioness responsible? Nanny Yu didn't know what to say. Go back and tell your old madam not to think about these trivial things. Since this matter involves the national law, it is not something that Marquis Xing's mansion can handle alone. Ask her to move her hand away. This matter is not as easy as she thinks. And Great Elder Princess sneered mercilessly. Great Elder Princess, our old madam really has something to tell Princess Chen. It's about the title of Marquis Xing's mansion. Nanny Yu gritted her teeth and had to use the last trump card. With Ri and Great Elder Princess's presence, it was useless even if she used the title of Old Madam. The title of Marquis Xing's mansion? And Great Elder Princess seemed to be interested. Yes, it's the title of Marquis Xing's mansion. Old Madam wants to ask Princess Chen, so she specially invites Princess Chen over. Nanny Yu secretly wiped her cold sweat and said, Who is going to inherit the title of Marquis Xing's mansion? And Great Elder Princess raised her eyebrows and asked. Nanny Yu paused for a moment. It was really difficult for her to answer. She couldn't say that Old Madam liked Xiao Yuanhao. She could understand Old Madam's mind. She only cared about the first young master and had nothing to do with the little young master. Otherwise, she wouldn't have deliberately watched Marchioness raise the little young master for so many years. Old Madam showed her willingness to let Old Madam do whatever she wanted. Of course, she couldn't say this to Bu and Great Elder Princess. I don't know about it. It's up to old madam. Your old madam wants to ask Princess Chin for her opinion. Of course, Princess Chin has to listen to me. In this way, the title of Marquis Xing's mansion has to listen to me? That's great. It happens that I have nothing to do now, so I have time to go to your mansion to discuss the inheritance of the title with your old madam. When Great Elder Princess said and was about to get up. Nanny Yu was so scared that cold sweat broke out on her forehead. If she really invited such a big figure back, old madam would be so angry that she would vomit blood. Great Elder Princess, let's go. And Great Elder Princess stood up and was about to go out with her servants. Great Elder Princess. Nanny Yu trotted a few steps and said boldly, Please wait, Great Elder Princess. You don't invite me? And Great Elder Princess stopped and said coldly, I don't dare. I don't dare. It's just that old madam is ill and can't stand it. If something bad happens to her, I can't bear the responsibility. Please wait, Great Elder Princess. Nanny Yu knelt down with a plop. She really didn't dare to invite Wu in Great Elder Princess's mansion back at this time. Old madam's health was getting worse. Even if she was old madam's henchman, she couldn't bear the responsibility. As she said, she looked at Nanny Gao beside Ru and Great Elder Princess and asked her for help with her eyes. Something bad happens to her? I really want to see it. And Great Elder Princess said coldly. Nanny Gao saw the help in Nanny Yu's eyes and came up to persuade her with a smile. Great Elder Princess, Princess Chin is still ill, and there is no elder in this mansion to take care of her. If you leave, there will be no one to take charge of the affairs here. Her words moved Ru and Great Elder Princess. Her eyes flickered and she looked at Nanny Yu, who was kneeling on the ground. I heard that the Marchioness of your mansion has come back from the Yuhui nunnery. Let her come here. Chapter 994. Looking at Ri and Great Elder Princess's appearance, how could Madame Marchioness come? Nanny Yu forced a smile and said, Madame Marchioness is also ill. It was too humid in the Yuhui nunnery before, so she hurt her joints and can't move freely. It was too humid in the Yuhui nunnery? Princess Chen had been in the Yuhui nunnery for 3 years, so she was even more seriously injured? I didn't see her say that her joints were hurt. It seems that Madame Marchioness is really delicate. She was really raised by a lot of charms. When Great Elder Princess sneered, turned back to the chair, sat down, and waved her hand. Don't talk nonsense. The affairs of the Ministry of Justice will be investigated by the Ministry of Justice. I don't care what your Marquis Madam wants to do, but if she messes with Princess Chin, don't blame me for being rude. And Great Elder Princess narrowed her eyes and said coldly, I dare not, I dare not. Nanny, you didn't dare to say anything at this time and could only keep apologizing. You can leave. And Great Elder Princess waved her hand. She really disliked the people of Marquis Xing's mansion more and more. She didn't like anyone from the top to the bottom, except for her grandson and granddaughter. Anyway, they should not be regarded as members of Marquis Xing's mansion. Nanny Yu felt as if she had been pardoned and didn't dare to say anything. She kowtowed to Ru and Great Elder Princess 3 times, stood up and walked out. She had to tell old madam that it was useless to talk about the title, and it would even attract Ru and Great Elder Princess. If Ru and Great Elder Princess came to the mansion, it would definitely not be easy to deal with. She had to report this matter to old madam. Xiao Wanru came out of the inner chamber and bowed to Ru and Great Elder Princess. She sat beside Ru and Great Elder Princess, reached out to touch the teacup on the table and ordered, Pour another cup for Grandma. The servant girl took the order and left. Seeing her granddaughter's considerate look, Ru and Great Elder Princess, who had been cold and stiff just now, smiled happily and said, Zhuozhua, you don't have to bother. Grandma is not someone else. You don't have to be so polite. I'm not being polite. It's my filial piety. I can't let my grandma drink something cold. It's not good for her health. Xiao Wanru's little face tightened slightly and she said unhappily. Such an intimate attitude made Ru and Great Elder Princess more and more happy. It was the best that her granddaughter didn't regard her as an outsider. The past 3 years were also the most comfortable period in more than a decade. Now that he had a granddaughter and a grandson, what was there to be dissatisfied about? Zhuozhuo, tell me, what do you think? Do you want the title of Marquis Xing? When he was still Duke Xing, his title was better. But now he can't even keep it. What's the use of your grandmother and second uncle? And great elder princess said discontentedly. The great elder princess felt that the title of nobility belonged to her little grandson, but it was forcefully taken by the second branch. Xiao Wenru shook great elder princess's sleeves with a smile, looking like a little girl and a little cunning. Grandma, how is Hao-er's study? Hao-er is smart and studies well. Mr. Qin has repeatedly said that Hao-er, who is a few years older than him, studies well and is smart. Although he entered the school a little later, it doesn't hinder his growth. If he studies hard in the future, he will have a promising future. At the mention of her grandson, Ruan great elder princess beamed with joy. She no longer looked tough in front of others. She just wanted to praise her little grandson like a flower. Grandma, do you think Hao-er can take the Imperial examination? Xiao Wenru asked with a sweet smile. Even though she and Hao-er were not related by blood, at least there was still the great elder princess. With the great elder princess and Hao-er, she would not be lacking in blood kinship. In this life, she would also protect them and not let them fall into a miserable and helpless state like they had in their previous life. She had never taken the people of Marquis Xing's mansion seriously. They had to pay back what they owed. When great elder princess stopped smiling and frowned, she asked in confusion, Zhuozhuo, do you mean to let Hao-er take the Imperial examination? It's too tiring. Great elder princess really couldn't bear to let her smart little grandson live such a tiring life. Grandma, do you want the title of Marquis Xing's mansion? What if this title is lost in the future? Xiao Wenru asked softly. How could it be lost? How could this title be lost? Great elder princess was shocked, and her meaning was very clear from her words. We can't let those people take advantage of us. She wanted this title for her little grandson. Of course, she was a little unwilling. She had fought with old madam for her whole life and spent almost half of her time fighting for this title. At this time, it was even more impossible for her to rest assured. Why should she give it to those people? It was originally her son-in-law. Now that her son-in-law was gone, of course, it should be left to her little grandson. Speaking of which, his little grandson was the most qualified to do so. Grandma, Xiao Wenru said, paused for a moment and looked around Great Elder Princess. Great Elder Princess understood and waved her hand. Everyone retreated. Even Nanny Gao followed the crowd to the outside. She stood outside with Yu Jie and the others, guarding there. The grandmother and granddaughter had important private words. Although they were trusted subordinates, they didn't want to hear some words. After everyone left, Xiao Wenru lowered her voice and said, Grandma, do you think the things in our mansion are similar? She didn't say the word, but just reached out and gently wrote the word Emperor in Great Elder Princess's palm. His eyes were fixed on the Great Elder Princess, and his expression was extremely cautious. When Great Elder Princess felt the touch in her hand. At first, she was slightly stunned. Then, after sensing it, her face changed dramatically. She held Xiao Wenru's hand tightly and didn't let her move anymore, as if this was the only way to stop talking about this topic. This topic was taboo. No one knew what the emperor meant. Grandma, rest assured. It's just the two of us talking. No one will hear it. Xiao Wenru leaned against her and Great Elder Princess and said in a low voice. They talked in such a low voice that even the people in the room nearby might not be able to hear it. Seeing that her granddaughter didn't try to be brave but spoke so cautiously and even sent their trusted subordinates out, Great Elder Princess nodded in her heart. Her granddaughter was really sensible. She knew that the fewer people heard this kind of thing, the better. Otherwise, it would be bad for herself and others. Was the matter of Marquis Xing's mansion the same as the matter of the emperor? Ruan Great Elder Princess had never thought of it. She had never thought of it in this way before and even subconsciously avoided this idea. Now she thought about it seriously. The more she thought about it, the more flustered she became. The more she thought about it, the more likely it seemed to be true. She held Xiao Wanru's hand and walked out of the cold sweat, and her palms became sticky. The title of Duke Xing's mansion originally belonged to the first branch, but now it belonged to the second branch. After her son-in-law died, it was not passed on to Hao Er because when the news of her son-in-law's death came, Hao Er was still in her daughter's belly and hadn't been born. So the title of heir of Duke Xing naturally fell on Xiao Jing of the second branch. After the old Duke Xing died, the title was naturally passed on to Xiao Jing, which had nothing to do with Hao Er. Now Hao Er wanted to take back the title of heir of Duke Xing from Xiao Jing, which was equivalent to letting Hao Er take over the inheritance from his uncle. This kind of thing was very similar to Chu Liuchen's. When the late emperor died, Chu Liuchen was just born, so the title of crown prince was passed on to the current emperor. Now the title of crown prince was still hanging in the air, and several princes were fighting for the title of crown prince. Chu Liuchen was also the third prince, so he was qualified. However, no one could deny that he was the son of the late emperor. No one would say anything when he was sick before, because everyone thought that he wouldn't live long. But now that he had recovered, it was inevitable that he would fall into the storm of fighting for the title of crown prince. If someone wanted to take Chu Liuchen's uncle's inheritance, it would be troublesome. Originally, the matter of Marquis Xing's mansion had nothing to do with Chu Liuchen. But now Chu Liuchen married Xiao Wanru, so the two mansions were related. If Xiao Yuanhao took the title of heir of Marquis Xing, would someone use this matter to discredit Chu Liuchen and say that Chu Liuchen did it intentionally to show that he had the intention to take the title of Duke Xing's mansion? It would not be a trivial matter. At that time, not only Chu Liuchen would be in trouble, but Xiao Yuanhao might also be implicated. Even if he was the grandson of Great Elder Princess, he was just an insignificant person, so what? Thinking of this, how could and Great Elder Princess feel at ease? She only felt that she was covered in a cold sweat. She had never thought about this matter. Zhuozhua, what should we do? And Great Elder Princess was born in the royal family, so she knew the danger of fighting for the title of crown prince. A slight carelessness might lead to a disaster. Compared with the inheritance of the title, she cared more about the safety of her grandson. Grandma, don't panic. I just want to avoid the sharp edge for a while. I don't want you to give up like this. You should do what you have done before. You can't arouse suspicion. This is the best way. Xiao Wanru took Great Elder Princess's hand, gently wiped the sweat on her palm with a handkerchief, and said softly. Her expression and behavior calmed Great Elder Princess's flustered heart. Looking at her granddaughter's black hair, she sighed softly and said, "As I get older, I have more scruples and become less courageous." At that time, when she had no scruples, Great Elder Princess had a cold and arrogant reputation in the capital city. She dared to trample on anyone's face. Now she had a weakness, so of course, she couldn't do whatever she wanted. However, she liked such a weakness and was willing to give up something for it. "Thank you, Grandma." Xiao Wanru wiped the sweat on Great Elder Princess's palm and leaned her face against her. Her watery eyes were full of gratitude. She could sense her grandma's concern and worry. Her granddaughter was so considerate and gentle that Great Elder Princess's heart was about to turn into water. She reached out to hold her in her arms, gently patted her soft body, and whispered in her ear, "Zhuozhua, tell me, do you want to?" She didn't finish her words and just stretched out a finger to point upwards. He was already a prince, and there was only that position above him. Chapter 995. Xiao Wanru was not surprised at Ru and Great Elder Princess's question and said calmly, "Grandma, it's a good thing that Prince Qin is in good health, but others will be more and more afraid of him. If he doesn't move up, he will be trampled by others in the end." She had already hinted very clearly just now, so how could her grandma not understand it? Ru and Great Elder Princess's body tensed up and then slowly relaxed. She held Xiao Wanru tightly in her arms and didn't intend to let go at all. After a long while, she heard that Xiao Wanru's breathing also calmed down. Obviously, she had accepted these words. She was very receptive. "Zhuozhua, don't worry. I know." Since it was Zhuozhua's intention, she would certainly try her best to fulfill it. Chu Liuchen's situation really could only move up and not fall down. Otherwise, he would be doomed eternally. When the Empress Dowager and the Emperor were still alive, Chu Liuchen would be fine. But in the future, no matter whether Prince Zhou or Prince Yu took the throne, they would probably not treat him well as a brother. Now they were not in power in front of the Empress Dowager and the Emperor. In the future, they would treat Chu Liuchen indifferently and even take revenge on him. Great Elder Princess was not stupid, but she had never dared to think so before. Now that her granddaughter had said so, she dared not think about anything else. For her granddaughter and little grandson, Great Elder Princess even dared to do more. Sensing Great Elder Princess's mood, Xiao Wanru became calmer. In the last life, without her, Chu Liuchen could still stand at a high position and trample on everyone step by step. He became the crown prince as a nephew and solidified his identity as the crown prince of the Nangong Palace. Of course, this time it would be better. The grandmother and granddaughter hugged each other. After a long while, and Great Elder Princess asked, "It's not that Hao doesn't want to fight for the title of nobility. It's still the same as before. He doesn't want others to see anything different. That is to drag the title of nobility. Even if Hao can't get it, others can't get it either. Zhuozhua, do you think it's reasonable?" He couldn't make any changes. Even the slightest change would arouse the suspicion of others. Regardless of whether he went overboard or retreated, it wasn't a good time to make any changes. He could only continue using the method that the Great Elder Princess had used before and continue to waste time. "It's the best that you think so, Grandma. Just do what you used to do. Let Hao learn from him. If he has a promising future, he can also earn a title in the future. As for Marquis Xing's mansion, it's good if he has it, but it doesn't matter if he doesn't, but we can't let others get it, lest they do something bad." Xiao Wanru analyzed calmly. Old Madam tempted her with the title of Marquis Xing's mansion, or other people in Marquis Xing's mansion also thought so. Everything she did was to fight for this title. They weren't wrong to think that way. He wouldn't let Xiao Hua inherit the title of nobility, so it would be more convenient for him to act in this way. Great Elder Princess didn't say anything but hugged Xiao Wanru tightly. After a pause, she said, "Don't worry, I will protect you and your brother." It was a pity that she didn't protect her only daughter at that time. Now, if she didn't protect her two children, Great Elder Princess felt that she would die with her eyes open. For this pair of children, she was willing to do anything. Xiao Wanru leaned in the arms of and Great Elder Princess, with her eyes slightly red and her nose sore. In the last life, she was separated from her grandmother, who loved her the most, and no one had a good ending. In this life, she would never let what happened in the last life repeat. Of course, she would protect the relatives she cared about. How did Chu Yuanan come back that day? Second child Chu is not a good person. He has done a lot of flirting in the past. He was plotted against by his sister, but he still dared to talk about it in front of me. And Great Elder Princess suddenly sneered and changed the topic. She already knew it in her heart, but she didn't ask much about it since Chu Liuchen had solved it. "Did you look for my grandmother?" Xiao Wanru understood the meaning of Great Elder Princess's words as soon as she heard it and said with a smile. She came out of Great Elder Princess's arms with bright eyes. She was not surprised at this. "After what happened before, you told me to stay out of it. You said that you didn't suffer losses, and Prince Chen helped you vent your anger, so I didn't do anything. I didn't expect that you came to me now." Thinking of this, and Great Elder Princess was full of anger. At that time, when she heard about Chu Yuanan and Xiao Wanru, and Great Elder Princess wanted to talk to and Great Elder Princess. Although they were both Great Elder Princesses, they were not close in the past and even had some quarrels in secret. When and Great Elder Princess talked about and Great Elder Princess in private, her words were not pleasant. She always said that and Great Elder Princess had no descendants and was very proud of her granddaughter and grandson. For this reason, and Great Elder Princess could not get close to and Great Elder Princess. "They came to you to ask you to persuade us to reconcile in private, right?" Xiao Wanru said with certainty. "Exactly. They said that it was a misunderstanding and that it caused inconvenience to you. Second young Master Chu, the playboy, didn't pursue it. He just hoped that you could get along well in the future and don't always talk about the misunderstanding, so as to avoid causing discord between Prince Zhou's mansion and Prince Chen's mansion in the future. They said that Prince Zhou has always taken care of Prince Chen. And Great Elder Princess said. At the thought of this, and Great Elder Princess got angry. They said that they had taken care of Prince Chen. They really thought that she didn't know the truth in the Imperial Palace. Neither Prince Yu nor Prince Zhou had good intentions towards Prince Chen. At the moment, they didn't dare to hurt Prince Chen, for fear of provoking the anger of the Empress Dowager and the Emperor. They want to reconcile with me? Xiao Wanru raised her eyebrows. Yes, they said that they reconciled, but they didn't say anything about what happened later. They didn't know that someone secretly instigated them to do it. It has nothing to do with and Great Elder Princess's mansion. And Great Elder Princess said with disdain. In the past, she had thought that Chu Yuanan was a good person and was much better than her grandmother. In the past, he also looked very steady and good. Now she found that she had misjudged him. Dogs that didn't bark were the ones that bit. Where can I reconcile with them? Xiao Wanru said indifferently. They said that they invited you to and Great Elder Princess's mansion to enjoy the flowers and have a meal. Everyone happily resolved the misunderstanding and don't mention anything else in the future. And Great Elder Princess said discontentedly, it seems that they have caused some trouble again. And Great Elder Princess didn't know what had happened in Butterfly Clothing Shop yet. However, when the accident happened, and Great Elder Princess's mansion didn't say anything, but now they said this. Something must have happened. Xiao Wanru didn't hide it and told her roughly what had happened in a few words. The accident happened in Prince Yu's mansion was blamed on and Great Elder Princess's mansion, which made and Great Elder Princess's mansion anxious. She was afraid that someone would use this matter to deal with Infanta Yuan and make the Empress Dowager and the Emperor unhappy. This noble Infanta Yuan was going to marry into the royal family. If she offended the Empress Dowager and the Emperor at this time, she would definitely have a hard time in the future. It might even affect Prince Zhou, so she was anxious. Grandma, just agree. She really needed and Great Elder Princess's help. Only and Great Elder Princess could deal with Chu Liwei. Do you really want to go? And Great Elder Princess asked with a frown. She was worried that Xiao Wanru would be at a disadvantage, so she thought it was better not to go. Grandma, can you accompany me? Xiao Wanru said with a smile. But I'll rest assured if I accompany you. And Great Elder Princess nodded repeatedly and thought that this was the best way. With her watching, even if and Great Elder Princess wanted to play tricks on her, she could resist him bluntly. And Great Elder Princess didn't care about this kind of rumor. In a few months, Chu Yuanan will marry into Prince Zhou's mansion. You should be more careful. Prince Zhou is the legitimate son of the Empress. If there is a legitimate son, there will be no concubine. Even if the succession of the crown prince has little to do with the legitimate son, you should still be careful of them. And Great Elder Princess reminded them worriedly. She thought that Prince Zhou was more orthodox. If there was a legitimate son, there would be no legitimate son, unless something happened to the legitimate son. Xiao Wanru admired and Great Elder Princess's words in her heart. She deserved to be a princess of the royal family. She could see it clearly. In the last life, Chu Liuzhou was involved in a rebellion, so Chu Liwei became the crown prince later. However, with Chu Liuchen's help, Chu Liwei failed to win the position of the crown prince in the end, so he must have been very aggrieved. Just when he reached out to pick the fruit of victory, Chu Liuchen intervened and snatched it away. Chu Liwei, who made a wedding dress for others, was lucky not to be angry to death in the last life. The invitation card from Rui and Great Elder Princess's mansion came quickly in the afternoon, inviting her to go to Rui and Great Elder Princess's mansion to enjoy the flowers tomorrow. Of course, enjoying the flowers was not an excuse. The most important reason was to reconcile. Along with the invitation card from Rui and Great Elder Princess's mansion, there was also an invitation card from Marquis Xing's mansion. What a coincidence, it was also tomorrow. After reading the invitation card, Xiao Wanru raised the corner of her red lips with a sneer. Your Highness, shall we go to Great Elder Princess's mansion or Marquis Xing's mansion tomorrow? Yu Jie, who came in with 2 invitation cards, asked curiously. Marquis Xing's mansion, Xiao Wanru said decisively. But what about the invitation card from R in Great Elder Princess's mansion? When R and Great Elder Princess left, you had agreed to this matter. Yu Jie looked at the invitation card and found that old madam still didn't give up. Since the hard method didn't work, she resorted to the soft method. Now the soft method didn't work either, so she intended to use both the soft and hard method again. Tomorrow, there would be a religious rite for the former heir of Duke Xing. In this case, Xiao Wanru and Xiao Yuanhao would definitely be present. How could they slack off on the religious rite for their parents? However, when Ri and Great Elder Princess left Prince Chen's mansion, the princess had agreed to Ri and Great Elder Princess's invitation to enjoy the flowers, so there was this invitation card. If she didn't go, it would seem that she went back on her word and would cause Ri and Great Elder Princess's dissatisfaction. Even if I go, will Infanta Yuan and really reconcile with me? Xiao Wanru said indifferently. It was good to bump into each other, which saved her some trouble. No. Yu Jie shook her head decisively. Then it's settled. No matter what I do, it's impossible for me and Infanta Yuan to get along well. So it's up to you. Xiao Wanru said casually. If she didn't mean it, it didn't matter whether they got along well or not. If she did, there would be a show to watch. Yu Jie felt that her words made sense, and she couldn't argue with her. Her master was indeed her master. Chapter 996. What? She refused the invitation? Chu Yuanan turned to Ruaping Great Elder Princess sitting in the first seat angrily. He put down the teacup in his hand heavily and said with a snort, What does Xiao Wanru mean? She gave us a hint and showed a good attitude. Now she is deliberately slapping us in the face, isn't she? Isn't she the daughter-in-law of the royal family? She doesn't seem to be the daughter-in-law of the royal family. Ruaping Great Elder Princess said that Xiao Wanru accepted the invitation and was willing to reconcile with the 2 families. She also said that as long as she sent an invitation and expressed her intention to reconcile, she would definitely accept it. She had already prepared for it and even thought about the guests. However, in the end, Xiao Wanru said that she would not come. Can't you calm down? Ruaping Great Elder Princess said calmly. She reached out and gently pushed the teapot in front of her. The art of tea is more about calming the mind. How can you make people feel that your tea is calm and tranquil, making people feel comfortable? Grandma, look at Xiao Wanru. Chu Yuanan was furious. Although her hand fell on the teapot, she was no longer as calm as before. She lowered her head heavily and bit her lip. What did I teach you in the past? Tasting tea is like tasting a person's character. If you are too impatient, the color and taste of the tea will be different. If you fall into the hands of a master of tea ceremony, you will be inferior. No matter what, Xiao Wanru is still Princess Chen, and you will be the future Princess Zhou. Ruaping Great Elder Princess said calmly with indifferent eyes. She looked at Xiao Yuanan and said with a smile, as if she did not notice the inexplicable resentment in Chu Yuanan's eyes. Just because Prince Chen married her unscrupulously, she will embarrass me now. In the future, Chu Yuanan said discontentedly, with her eyes turning red with grievance. Originally, she was superior to Xiao Wanru. No matter before or after getting married, Xiao Wanru could not compare with her. Before getting married, she was Infanta Yuan, and Xiao Wanru was just an orphan girl without parents. Even though she was the daughter of Marquis Xing's mansion, it didn't matter. After getting married, she was Princess Zhou, and Xiao Wanru, Princess Chen, was her sister-in-law. In terms of nobility, Prince Zhou ranked first, and Princess Chen also had to bow to her. In the current situation, because Prince Chen was the first to get married, the relationship between her and Xiao Wanru was reversed. Xiao Wanru was already Princess Chen, while she was still Infanta Yuan. In this regard, her status as an infanta was inferior to that of Princess Chen. But so what? She was now the imperial consort of Princess Zhou, and it was only a matter of time. What did Xiao Wanru mean by bullying her like this? No matter what, she is now Prince Chen's wife, and you are still a princess. Based on this point alone, you can only be below her. You are not in a higher position than her, so why bother fighting? You can't win. Ruaping Great Elder Princess picked up the teacup in front of Infantiyun and gracefully poured the tea in it slowly into the 2 teacups in front of her. The tea was light in color, but faintly fragrant. After the tea was washed, the tea in the teacup was of excellent quality. Ruaping Great Elder Princess put down the teapot, picked up a small cup of tea in front of her, covered her sleeves, and took a sip. She frowned slightly and said, "This is a pot of good tea. Your technique and heat control are good, but because you stopped for a moment just now, you missed the best time and made it a little worse." Grandma. Infantiyun was not in the mood to drink tea with her grandma at the moment. She was full of anger, so how could she calm down? She picked up the tea in her hand and wanted to take a sip, but she put it down, looked up, and said. Ruaping Great Elder Princess didn't seem to see Infantiyun's hesitation and said slowly, "What is the use of doing this to Princess Chen?" "It's useless." Infantiyun lowered her head again. "Since it's useless, why do you make such a gesture? It's useless to disturb your mind and let others see what you're thinking." Ruaping Great Elder Princess put down the teacup in her hand, and her eyes became cold. "Then what did I teach you in the past? If it's useless, don't think too much. You should be calm when you need to be calm, or even if you're not calm in your heart, you should be calm on the surface." "But, Grandma, I'm really angry," Infantiyun said unwillingly. "So what if you're angry? Do you want to beat Princess Chen, or do you want to plot something in secret? The matter of Butterfly Clothing Shop had nothing to do with you, but now it's related to you because of your rash action. It's obviously related to Prince Yu's mansion. Everyone thinks that you're angry, so you vent your anger on a small shop. And you're the future Princess Zhou. If that's all you've got, I don't think you should marry into the royal family. Otherwise, you'll only bring trouble to our mansion." Ruaping Great Elder Princess's face froze, and she said in a cold voice. There was an obvious disappointment in her eyes. This granddaughter was raised in front of her, and the purpose was to marry into the royal family. Ruaping Great Elder Princess was born in the royal family, and she was born noble. Of course, she hoped that her granddaughter would marry into the royal family. Prince Zhou was the prince that Ruaping Great Elder Princess was most optimistic about. He was born as a legitimate prince. If it weren't for the eldest son of a concubine, there was no doubt that the throne would fall on his head. Even though there was still Prince Yu, Ruaping Great Elder Princess was still more optimistic about Prince Zhou and felt that Prince Zhou was most likely to ascend the throne. If her granddaughter married Prince Zhou, she would be the motherly empress in the future. When Commandery Princess Yuan was very young, she had asked someone to read her fortune. It was said that her 8 characters were very precious. Of course, no one dared to say anything more than that. However, the meaning was clear. The future empress was the most precious thing in the world. Therefore, Ruaping Great Elder Princess cared about her granddaughter's words and deeds very much, and she intended to cultivate her granddaughter to be a member of the royal family in the future. In the past, Infantiyun had always done a good job. Even when she met Xiao Yanru, she was very generous and decent, and behaved gracefully in front of others. She had the demeanor of a noble lady from an aristocratic family. Even though she was not known as the first beauty, she was the only noble lady from an aristocratic family in the capital city, and she was more popular than Xiao Yanru. But now, her granddaughter's mind was in a mess. That day in Butterfly Clothing Shop, she suddenly came up with the idea of plotting against Prince Chen. In Ruaping Great Elder Princess's opinion, she was really crazy. Who was Prince Chen? He was the beloved grandson of the Empress Dowager. Since Xiao Wanru married into Prince Chen's mansion, she must be favored by the Empress Dowager, which was incomparable to the other princesses. Plotting against Princess Chen was equivalent to plotting against Prince Chen. How could the Empress Dowager sit still? Ruaping Great Elder Princess really didn't understand why her clever granddaughter couldn't bear to see Princess Chen. It was impossible for Prince Chen to seize the throne. At this time, only by making friends with Prince Chen's mansion could she please the Empress Dowager and the Emperor. Her granddaughter didn't make friends with Princess Chen, but dared to plot against her. Moreover, she was the most stupid one. She failed to plot against Princess Chen successfully. She was really stupid. Ruiping Great Elder Princess thought that the biggest mistake of Infanta Yuan and was that she didn't plan well. Suddenly, she wanted to plot against Princess Chen, so that Princess Chen not only escaped, but also made a false accusation, causing her, the Great Elder Princess, to be implicated. Her grandson was still lying in bed. Thinking of this, she inexplicably felt a trace of anger in her heart. Grandma Xiao Wanru, Princess Chen. Xiao Wanru, Princess Chen. After repeating it twice, Ruiping Great Elder Princess showed a trace of fierceness between her eyebrows. She picked up the teacup at hand and smashed it hard on the ground. Infanta Yuan, and immediately stopped talking, bit her pale lips, and didn't dare to mention Xiao Wanru's name again. After a short pause, she said, "Grandma, I got it. It was my fault for what happened in Butterfly Clothing Shop." Her voice became much softer, and she lowered her eyes. Although she was resentful and afraid in her heart, her face became calm. The cup made her sober a lot. This set of teacups was her grandma's favorite, and she was reluctant to take them out in the past. Today, she wanted to make tea for her grandma, so she specially asked someone to bring them here. Now one of them was smashed, so this set of teacups was useless. As expected, Ruiping Great Elder Princess waved her hand and said, "Take them away and throw them away." A servant girl came over and carefully took away the teacup in front of Infanta Yuan. Infanta Yuan, and didn't even have time to taste the tea in it and watched the servant girl take it away. She would never see this set of teacups again in the future. She wouldn't give them away. She would smash them one by one. Grandma never treasured things that were useless. She destroyed them directly. But what about useless people? Infanta Yuan's heart trembled, and a gust of cold air rushed into her head and fell straight into her heart. She lowered her head to hide the panic at the bottom of her eyes. Infanta Yuan, and would be afraid even of her biological grandma. Don't do anything about Butterfly Clothing Shop for the time being. Just wait and see what Prince Yu does. If Prince Yu does something wrong, we should expose it and let people know that these things are all Prince Yu's business. If there is no mistake, our mansion can't do anything rashly. Ruiping Great Elder Princess was satisfied with Infanta Yuan's tactfulness, and her face looked a little better. Prince Yu obviously had a plot to push the matter of dealing with Butterfly Clothing Shop to her own family. Her granddaughter was the future Princess Zhou, so she was destined to stand against Prince Yu's mansion. Prince Yu's mansion was not Princess Chen, but the main opponent for the throne in the future. It was good to have something on him. Prince Yu should be doing the same thing. He deliberately made trouble with the matter of Butterfly Clothing Shop in order to deal with her family. Ruiping Great Elder Princess didn't know that Chu Luiwei really wanted to deal with Butterfly Clothing Shop. She thought that he deliberately made trouble for Prince Chen and Prince Zhou because of the dispute between his granddaughter and Xiao Wanru in Butterfly Clothing Shop. The more Prince Yu wanted to do this, the more she couldn't let him get what he wanted. If Prince Yu kept an eye on them, they would also keep an eye on Prince Yu. If Prince Yu showed any flaws, she would not let him go. You even listened to Grandma. What should Princess Chen do? Infanta Yuan, and suppressed the anger in her heart, raised her face, and asked with a calm smile, as if she really didn't care that Xiao Wanru had offended her and really took Ruiping Great Elder Princess's words seriously. Chapter 997. There is no conflict between Prince Chen and Prince Zhou. They can be good brothers. Prince Zhou is noble and has the support of the Empress. If he can get the attention of the Empress Dowager, it will be a success. Ruiping Great Elder Princess said to her granddaughter with a smile. The coldness on her face slowly faded and she became gentle. Prince Chen didn't have the strength to compete for the throne. Everyone knew that although the emperor valued him, it was impossible for him to really pass the throne to him. It had always been passed down to sons and not nephews, so how could it fall on him? Moreover, with his body, even though it had gotten better now, it was still much worse than the prince's who had always been healthy. It was already good enough that he could live like this. Perhaps he could live a few more years if he behaved himself. If he had other thoughts, this would be the pain of thinking, and it could also take his life. Ruaping Great Elder Princess had long planned to befriend and not offend a person like Prince Chin. Princess Chin is not easy to get along with. Infanta Yuan, and had a different opinion. Seeing that her grandmother seemed to think highly of Prince Chin, she couldn't help but murmur. What if Princess Chin loses Prince Chin? She will be nothing. Moreover, does Prince Chin really like Princess Chin? Ruaping Great Elder Princess raised the corner of her mouth and said with a hint of sarcasm, Grandma, is there anything wrong with this? Look at what happened before. Second brother obviously did nothing wrong, but he was. It's so hateful. Infanta Yuan and quickly defended herself when she realized that Ruaping Great Elder Princess was implying something in her words. So what? I haven't seen you so close to your second brother in the past. Now you get angry every time your second brother is mentioned. Ruaping Great Elder Princess glanced at her and said. The meaning of her words made Infanta Yuan blush and embarrassed. Her relationship with Chu Xinghong had always been indifferent. Chu Xinghong was a playboy. How could Infanta Yuan unlike him, even if he was her elder brother? Since you are like this, how can Prince Chin not do the same? You hurt Princess Chin, but you humiliated Prince Chin. With Prince Chen's temperament, he did me a favor by not directly attacking Great Elder Princess's mansion, Ruaping Great Elder Princess said. She glanced at Infanta Yuan and asked, Do you feel anything now? Infanta Yuan then hurriedly nodded and said, Grandma, I understand. If I humiliate Princess Chin, it is equivalent to slapping Prince Chen's face. With Prince Chen's character, he will definitely not let me go. It has nothing to do with whether I treat Princess Chin sincerely or not. If he's really good, he wouldn't have left at this time. He just got married, yet he left for so long. It can be seen that he doesn't care much. Ruaping Great Elder Princess nodded with satisfaction. After all, her granddaughter had grown up on her own. She would be able to understand some things after some reminders. But Princess Chin is extremely beautiful. Even though she was full of reluctance, Infanta Yuan had to agree with this. In the past, she only knew that Xiao Yanru was the most beautiful, but now Xiao Wanru was not inferior at all. She even made people feel that she was more eye-catching and more charming. Take her second brother as an example. He had only met her once and was seriously injured. Now he was still lying in bed, but he still had the heart to secretly inquire about Princess Chin. So what? Living in the palace, Prince Chin had seen all kinds of beauties. The Empress Dowager and the Empress had sent all kinds of beauties to him early. Although Prince Chen was extremely beautiful, different people liked different flowers, and some beauties were not much worse than others. Prince Chen, it will be a big joke if Prince Chen falls in love with Princess Chin. Ruaping Great Elder Princess said indifferently. As a member of the royal family, he had seen many beauties. Moreover, everyone had his own taste. Prince Chen might not think that Princess Chin was the most beautiful. There were many beauties with exquisite looks in the palace. Few of those beauties sent to Prince Chen's mansion had a good ending. Hearing Ruaping Great Elder Princess's words, Infanta Yuan felt that it was reasonable. She nodded and no longer cared about Xiao Wanru's appearance. After a pause, she asked, Grandma, what should we do now? It is said that Marquis Xing's mansion invited her, but she didn't come to our Ruaping Great Elder Princess's mansion but went to Marquis Xing's mansion. We can't say anything, but I have informed several misses who are close to her before. This was what Infanta Yuan was most dissatisfied with. This time, Ruaping Great Elder Princess's mansion invited Xiao Wanru over with the intention of making up with her and then invited several misses from other mansions to accompany her. In this way, both sides would not be embarrassed and this matter would naturally be over. After all, the two of them had fallen out with each other. At this moment, Xiao Wanru couldn't say anything. It was Infanta Yuan who had lost face. After being humiliated again and again, Infanta Yuan, who had been indifferent, couldn't sit still anymore. Marquis Xing's mansion will hold the religious rites for her biological father and mother. As a daughter, Princess Chin must go there. If she wants to come, I won't let her come. We can't stop her from fulfilling her filial piety because of the affairs of our mansion. What will others say about us, and what will the Empress Dowager and the Emperor think? Ruaping Great Elder Princess analyzed. Infanta Yuan, and was originally a smart girl. After thinking about it carefully, her expression changed dramatically. She didn't think so much before. She only felt that she had been humiliated by Xiao Wanru again and again, which made her lose her status among noble ladies. Now, after thinking about it carefully, she broke out in a cold sweat. She was not an ordinary noble lady in the capital city. She would be Princess Zhou in the future and had a close relationship with Prince Zhou. If the Empress Dowager and the Emperor thought that she made trouble with Great Elder Princess and Prince Zhou's mansion and forced Xiao Wanru, who was supposed to return to her mansion to fulfill her filial piety, to come to her mansion, she, the future Princess Zhou, might not even be able to enter Prince Zhou's mansion. Grandma. After figuring it out, Infanta Yuan looked at Ruaping Great Elder Princess in horror with a cold sweat on her forehead. Have you figured it out? Ruaping Great Elder Princess, who looked very calm, raised her chin and asked. Infanta Yuan nodded repeatedly and didn't dare to think that Xiao Wanru would come. Grandma, I've figured it out. I did think wrong before. It's best if she doesn't come. I won't force her. Not only that. It doesn't matter if she doesn't come. We can go to her mansion by ourselves. The intention of seeking goodwill is originally a show to outsiders. Even if Prince Qin is not here now, the Empress Dowager and the Emperor will be happy to know it. Even the Empress is happy to see you get close to Prince Chen's mansion. Ruaping Great Elder Princess smiled. Finally, her granddaughter was not too stupid. She immediately understood it after she gave her some advice. Grandma, do you mean that we should go to Prince Chen's mansion? Infanta Yuan then asked nervously. Not to Prince Chen's mansion. Princess Chen has gone to Marquis Xing's mansion. Why do we go to Prince Chen's mansion? Let's go to Marquis Xing's mansion. Since it's a solution, we can send some incense and candles and go there to offer sacrifices. It's also a kind gesture. Ruaping Great Elder Princess said with a smile. Infanta Yuan then rolled her eyes. She nodded repeatedly and said, Yes, Grandma. I'll listen to you. I'll ask someone to prepare the offerings later. Well, it's not urgent. As long as you stay calm, many things can be discussed. Ruaping Great Elder Princess said with a smile. She reached out and patted the table gently. She ordered the servant girl beside her, Go and take out the tea set I've treasured before the rain and let Infanta try it. That set of tea set was given by the Empress Dowager, which was even more precious. In the past, Infanta Yuan had only seen it in very important places. Now she was asked to use this tea set to learn the tea ceremony. She opened her eyes wide in surprise and said, Thank you, Grandma. These things are just things. In the future, you can have whatever you want. When you go to Marquis Xing's mansion, if someone in Marquis Xing's mansion makes things difficult for Princess Chen, you must find a way to solve it. Although you are not Princess Zhou now, you are also a member of the royal family. You are her cousin. Ruaping Great Elder Princess said casually. If she became the Empress in the future, she would be second only to one person and superior to tens of thousands of people. She would have all kinds of good things. It was easy to understand why Marquis Xing's mansion suddenly held this kind of spell meeting at this time. Now there were rumors outside that Madame of Marquis Xing had been scheming against Princess Chen since a long time ago, and this matter was brought to the Ministry of Justice. It was not a matter that could be handled by the backyard. It was inevitable that Marquis Xing's mansion would lose face. The current matter could be big or small. The key was Princess Chen's attitude. It seemed that Princess Chen did not intend to be kind to it, so Marquis Xing's mansion came up with this idea to summon Princess Chen back. As for why they didn't force Princess Chen to come back, of course, it was because Marquis Xing's mansion was weak now. Even if they took filial piety as an example, many people thought that Marquis Xing's mansion was not kind to Princess Chen because of so many things before. Filial piety was not something that could be obtained easily. At present, except for the deceased heir of Duke Xing and Infanta Qinghua, Marquis Xing's mansion had nothing to threaten Princess Chen with. Infanta Yuan and nodded knowingly. Help, she must help Xiao Wan. Even if she had nothing to do, she had to find something to help. After all, she had to let Xiao Wanru see her family's sincerity. First of all, she had to show her sincerity through the sacrificial ceremony. Xiao Wanru was also preparing for the sacrificial ceremony. Time was a little rushed, so she couldn't prepare well for the time being. She sent Qing to the Yuhui nunnery overnight and asked the abbess of the Yuhui nunnery for a scripture that had been consecrated and some other things. Early the next morning, she went to Marquis Xing's mansion with her people. Xiao Yuanhao came directly from and Great Elder Princess's mansion, so they didn't arrive together. Because they were going to hold the religious ceremony of the former heir of Duke Xing and Infanta Qinghua, some old friends also specially came to visit. When Xiao Wanru arrived, the scene had been very big and open. This was the first time that a religious ceremony was held in Marquis Xing's mansion for the deceased former heir of Duke Xing and Infanta Qinghua. After the accident, Duke Xing's mansion didn't make a big fuss about it. They just kept it under wraps and said a few words to some elders. Now, after so many years, they actually held such a religious ceremony again, which made many people feel ridiculous. This time, it was Princess Chen who was going against them. The two of them could hold such a religious ceremony in Marquis Xing's mansion with the help of their daughter, which made people feel that Marquis Xing's mansion was cold-blooded. The tea cools when the person is gone, and no one gets up early without benefits. Chapter 998. Nanny Yu had been waiting for Xiao Wanru in the front yard for a long time. Seeing her come over, she hurriedly stepped forward to bow, stepped aside, and said respectfully, "Princess Chen, please come with me." "Not in the main hall?" Xiao Wanru paused slightly. "Not in the main hall. The main hall welcomes guests. There are many guests today. Old Madam and Master Ho can't receive them all at once. Please go to the main hall to serve tea for the time being." Xiao Wanru looked at Nanny Yu and suddenly said with a smile, "Nanny Yu, does Grandma think that my parents' religious ceremony should not be held in the main hall?" How could this be?" Nanny Yu stammered and shook her head hurriedly. Of course, she didn't dare to say this casually. It was true. Old Madam didn't really want to hold a religious ceremony. She just wanted to call Princess Chen back. Since they won't, why not put them in the main hall? Are my parents not qualified? Xiao Wanru said with a cold smile on her face. Some guests came from behind them and stopped when they heard what they said. It was not necessary to hold a religious ceremony in the main hall. However, if the deceased were important, it would usually be held in the main hall. Of course, the former heir of Duke and his wife are qualified, but now. Nanny Yu sighed and said, "The princess also knows that there are too many things in the Lord Protector's mansion recently, so Old Madam and Master Ho dare not make it public, so they put it in the side courtyard. In fact, it is not far away. It is just beside the main hall, and Marquis's religious ceremony was also put here." After Duke Xing died, the religious rite was indeed held in the side yard. For this reason, many people in the capital city thought that Xiao Jing, who ascended to the position of Duke Xing, did it on purpose. He felt that the old duke favored his elder brother, so he held the religious rite in the side yard. No matter how much the former heir of Duke Xing valued him, he couldn't surpass the old duke. Nanny Yu used the old duke as an example, so Xiao Wanru could only agree. Her watery eyes flashed silently, and her lips were slightly raised. In that case, Nanny Yu will lead the way. Next, she wanted to see how Madame Dowager and the Madam of the Jiang family would deal with it. She was not in a hurry. Sometimes, it was better to sum up the accounts. Hearing Xiao Wanru's words, Nanny Yu secretly wiped the cold sweat on her forehead. She was afraid that Princess Chen would stand here unforgivingly, which would be really shameful. As Xiao Wanru moved, the guests behind her also moved. A group of people followed her inside. When they reached the intersection, Xiao Wanru was led directly to the side courtyard, and the guests went to the main hall for the time being. It was said to be on the side, but in fact it was not close. Although it was also in the front yard, Xiao Wanru seldom came to the front yard. She followed Nanny Yu and turned 2 corners before they arrived. A quaint courtyard appeared in front of Xiao Wanru. As Nanny Yu entered it, there came the voices of monks and Taoists, which was very lively. There were many incense sticks and candles in the entire courtyard. There were maids carefully serving the incense sticks. There were also novice monks and young Taoists. Inside, there were layers of incense sticks and Buddhist chants. The memorial tablets of the former heir of Duke Xing, Xiao Jiang, and Infanta Qinghua were placed on the incense table. There was a person kneeling in front of the table. From the back, it could be seen that it was a woman. Xiao Wanru couldn't see her clearly. She was dressed in a white plain dress, which almost covered her whole body. She was crying sadly. When Xiao Wanru came in, she didn't notice it. She still half knelt on the ground and cried sadly. "Madam, madam, Princess Qin is here." Nanny Yu took 2 steps forward, walked up to the woman and said in a low voice. The woman raised her head and met Xiao Wanru's eyes. As soon as they met, Xiao Wanru immediately recognized the figure of the madam of the Jiang family. Compared with the last time they met, the madam of the Jiang family was thinner this time. Her white dress made her look a little more sad. The Jiang family did not hear Nanny Yu's voice. She continued to cry and murmur. There were bursts of Buddhist incense in the air, and there was a familiar smell of medicine. Yes, the smell of medicine. "Madam!" Nanny Yu raised her voice a little. The servant girl beside her came over and gently shook the sleeves of the Jiang family. Only then did the Jiang family raise her head. The Jiang family in front of her was no longer the same as when Xiao Wanru first arrived at Marquis Xing's mansion. She was thin and old. Kneeling in front of the hall, her eyes were red, and she looked extremely pitiful. "Madam, Princess Qin is here." Nanny Yu said again. "Princess Qin." The Jiang family tried to get up in a hurry, and the incense in her hand almost fell. Nanny Yu hurriedly took it. The servant girl beside her helped her up, but she couldn't stand still no matter how hard she tried. She leaned on the servant girl weakly and said, "Wanru is back. Go and pay your respects to your biological mother." The Jiang family said with a haggard look and a soft voice. After being helped to sit down on a chair on one side, she looked at the 2 memorial tablets on it and shed tears. "At that time, your mother and I married into Duke Xing's mansion one after another. We were young and impetuous, or we had some disputes. Now I think that I was wrong." How could she explain what had happened in the past with the words, young and impetuous? Xiao Wanru didn't say anything. She took the incense offered by Nanny Yu and knelt down respectfully in the middle. Her snow-colored silk dress was spread on the ground. She frowned and said nothing. Yujie stepped forward to take the incense from Xiao Wanru's hand and put it into the censer in the middle. "Princess Qin, I was wrong at that time. I apologize to you here. I hope that you can save the dignity of the Marquis's mansion for the sake of our mansion. You can do whatever you want, but don't let old madam worry about this kind of thing anymore. She is old and can't bear such a big setback." The Jiang family sighed again and helped the servant girl beside her to stand up. The servant girl came over to help her get up and helped her kneel beside Xiao Wanru. Xiao Wanru still didn't say a word. It seemed that the Jiang family was filial to old madam and more filial to her than her own granddaughter. Her long eyelashes fluttered, and her eyes were cold and indifferent. She took a small wooden fish taken down by Yujie and gently knocked it with the Buddhist chants beside her. She had lived in the Yuhui nunnery for so long and had learned to knock the wooden fish with the scriptures long ago. Seeing that Xiao Wanru ignored her, the Jiang family was not discouraged and continued, "Wang Xingxue is not a good person. I found it in the Marquis's mansion. I wanted to drive him away with this matter, but I didn't expect that he really dared to do such a thing and put the blame on me. Wanru, for this point, I'm sorry." The Jiang family lowered her head and trembled. She looked extremely pitiful. Nanny Yu took 2 steps forward and whispered in Xiao Wanru's ear. After Madam returned to the mansion, old Madam had severely punished her and beaten her dozens of times. At this time, she can't even get up to walk. Because she had been beaten, she had taken medicine. The smell of medicine in the air was so strong, which was also the smell that Xiao Wanru smelled as soon as she came in. Anyone who came in would smell this smell as long as their noses were not blocked. Such a strong smell broke through the faint smell of Buddhist incense. Anyone who had taken medicine and drunk traditional Chinese medicine would know that this was the smell of medicine. Was the Jiang family trying to make herself miserable? I should have suffered all these. It's all my fault. Please forgive me, Wanru. On the one hand, I have a bad judgment of people, and on the other hand, I have some petty thoughts, so the recent things happened. The Jiang family burst into tears. Although she was facing the incense table in the middle, she said these words to Xiao Wanru. Looking at her appearance and thinking that it was difficult for her to even get up now, but she still came here to guard, it could be seen that she was sincere. At that time, I took a fancy to you and wanted to adopt you as my daughter, but in the end, I could only adopt Qin Yuru. At that time, I was very unhappy, so I asked Wang Xingxue to teach you a lesson. But I didn't want to ruin your reputation. I just wanted to scare you and make you take the initiative to come to me. At that time, I really liked having a daughter like you. The Jiang family continued, when I talked about this, you hadn't officially adopted me. This was originally a matter of killing two birds with one stone. If Wang Xingxue really did this, I could drive him away, and you would inevitably approach me, who helped you out of trouble. I could have another daughter. I didn't expect things to change later. I was so busy that I forgot about it. Wang Xingxue didn't say anything to me and just plotted with Nanny Sheng to set you up. Speaking of this, the Jiang family burst into tears. It was really a good scheme to put all the blame on Nanny Sheng. She wondered how Nanny Sheng, who had died, would feel when she knew that Madame, who had served her wholeheartedly, still put all the blame on her. Xiao Wanru frowned and ignored the Jiang family's flawed excuse. She still gently knocked the wooden fish in her hand with a light look. Since she entered here until now, no outsider had appeared. Only the Jiang family had accompanied her, as if no one else in Marquis Xing's mansion had come to worship. When she entered the door just now, she clearly saw that there were guests coming. Princess Qin, it's all my fault. You can punish me in any way you want. Even if you want to kill me now, I won't frown. I just beg you to let go of Marquis Xing's mansion. If there's anything wrong, let me bear it alone. Don't let outsiders see us as a joke. The Jiang family begged again. She turned her body slightly and half-faced Xiao Wanru. She had prepared these words long ago. She had thought that Xiao Wanru would be moved by her words and would definitely respond even if she didn't forgive them. However, Xiao Wanru was so cold and indifferent, as if she didn't exist. Her reaction was different from what she had imagined, which made the Jiang family involuntarily a little anxious. She looked sideways at the gauze curtain behind the incense table and became anxious. Behind the incense table, there were heavy curtains, which looked sad and desolate. Wanru. The Jiang family turned her body and continued to turn her body. However, if she turned her body again, it seemed that she would face Xiao Wanru directly. It seemed that she was kneeling to Xiao Wanru. Madam Jiang, you'd better get up and talk. You are an elder. If you kneel in front of our princess, those who know will say that you are repenting to the infanta and the child, but those who don't know will think that you are kneeling to our princess. At this time, our princess is wholeheartedly reciting the Reincarnation Sutra for the child and infanta. If you have anything to say, you'd better say it later. Yu Jie came over and helped the Jiang family up. She had always been very strong, so Jiang family had to stand up. Chapter 999. Another servant girl came out from behind Xiao Wanru, and the two of them helped Madame of Duke Xing to sit down in the chair. Madame Jiang, please don't disturb our princess from reciting the Reincarnation Sutra for Infanta Qinghua and heir of Duke Xing. Yu Jie said in a low voice, looking neither humble nor arrogant. Madame of Duke Xing was so angry that she gritted her teeth secretly, but she could not interrupt Xiao Wanru at this time. She could only suppress her anger and said to Yu Jie kindly, "When will Princess Qin finish reciting the sutra?" "It's not certain," Yu Jie replied in a low voice. Madame of Duke Xing's anger rose again, but she suppressed it again and asked, "There is a limit to a scripture. How can you not know when it will be finished?" "There is a limit to a scripture, and there is a time when it will be finished. Our princess often recites it more than once. When she was in the Yuhui nunnery, she recited it for a whole day. No matter how many reincarnations she has recited, it is not enough to express our princess's filial piety. At that time, our princess once wanted to hold a religious rite in Marquis Xing's mansion. Now that there is such an opportunity, our princess will certainly recite it for a while. Yu Jie said, and then bowed respectfully to Madame of Duke Xing and said in a low voice, "Madame Jiang, I hope you don't disturb our princess and let her recite the Reincarnation Sutra for her parents quietly." Madame of Duke Xing felt that she had learned to suppress her temper after staying in the Yuhui nunnery for so long. In fact, she had always been good at suppressing her temper before. In front of everyone, she had always been a dignified and decent madam. However, in front of Xiao Wanru, she inexplicably got angry. It was not certain when she would recite the sutra, but she still asked her to leave? How could she? How could she let Xiao Wanru avoid the trap that she had specially set up? She shook her head and said, "Then I'll stay here to accompany Princess Chen." "Madam, you'd better go back first, and we will stay here to guard Princess Chen. Princess Chen may not finish reciting the sutra." Yu Jie said, "It doesn't matter. I originally wanted to recite the sutra here all the time," Mrs. Jiang said with a stiff look. Xiao Wanru had robbed her of what she wanted to do. She had been kneeling here to let everyone see her sincerity. Even though she was injured, she still dragged her seriously injured body to kneel until the end of the religious rite. Even if he was wrong, it was Wang Xingshue's fault. His mistake was not a big one, and Wang Xingshue's words could not be completely taken seriously. Many people would stand on his side. As for whether Xiao Wanru believed it or not, it was not a big problem. At least on the surface, Xiao Wanru, as Princess Chen, would have more scruples. Although Princess Chen's identity was noble, she had to consider other things in some aspects and could no longer express her likes and dislikes as she pleased. As long as she could get more sympathy, Xiao Wanru, as Princess Chen, had to swallow this matter and plead for her aunt. Moreover, the madam of the Jiang family also invited someone from the Ministry of Justice to come over in order to let them see what Xiao Wanru said to her in private. It would be better if Xiao Wanru was so angry that she hit her a few times or said something out of control in anger. But she did not expect that Xiao Wanru acted as if she did not see her existence and did what she should do. At this moment, Xiao Wanru even focused on reciting the Reincarnation Sutra and ignored her. This was so different from what she had imagined that Mrs. Jiang could only grit her teeth and bear it. She could not leave. If she left, she would not have a chance to provoke Xiao Wanru or let Xiao Wanru forgive her on the surface. It was so different from what she had imagined that Mrs. Jiang could only grit her teeth and bear it silently. She could not leave. It became quiet in the room. There was only the sound of Xiao Wanru gently knocking on the wooden fish and chanting scriptures silently with the corners of her mouth moving slightly. There were Buddhists and Taoists in the wing rooms on both sides of the main room. Their voices were rhythmic, making people feel as if they were in another world. Madame Jiang couldn't sit still. She had really been hit by a stick. Although the injury wasn't as serious as it looked, it was still an injury. Sitting motionless like this was even more uncomfortable than kneeling just now. She held the railing of the chair and moved her body a little to make herself feel more comfortable. Then she secretly breathed a sigh of relief and lowered her head to listen quietly. After a while, she turned in another direction. After a while, she moved again, but she did not move at all. Her hands and feet were stiff. Her injured leg was stiff, sore, and numb, and there were bursts of pain. She turned in another direction again. "Madame Jiang, can I help you change your position?" Yu Jie noticed the embarrassment of her army and walked over to her side, asking in a low voice. Mrs. Jiang looked around and found that the chair was right next to the incense table and leaned against Xiao Wanru's side. She didn't dare to move too much because she felt very uncomfortable. She pointed to the door and hinted to Yu Jie to move the chair there. It was far away and she could move more freely. Yu Jie nodded and asked a servant girl to help Mrs. Jiang stand up. She carried the chair to the entrance of the hall and gently put it down. Then she invited Mrs. Jiang to come over and sit down. Mrs. Jiang walked over slowly with the help of the servant girl. After sitting down again, she raised her leg and felt like stretching again. The injury on her leg was not so painful. Just now, her leg was right beside Xiao Wanru, so it was really inconvenient for her to raise her leg for fear of touching Xiao Wanru. "Madam, I'll make a cup of tea for you," Yu Jie said in a low voice. Mrs. Jiang nodded. She was tired and in pain, and she had some cold sweat. At this time, she was really thirsty. Yu Jie went inside and came over with a cup of tea after a while. She asked the servant girl of Prince Chen's mansion to bring a large tea table from the side room and put the teacup on it. Mrs. Jiang took it, took a sip, and exhaled heavily. She looked up at Xiao Wanru's back gloomily. Xiao Wanru, who was kneeling inside, was now far away from her. "Madam, there are some snacks here. Please have some. Our princess brought them from Prince Chen's mansion." Yu Jie walked to the door, brought in a few snacks from the offerings she brought, and put them on the table in front of Mrs. Jiang. Then she pointed at Xiao Wanru and said, "Madam, please be gentle when you eat them. Don't disturb our princess." Her behavior infuriated Madame Jiang. Xiao Wanru was not a good person. Xiao Yinru had thought that Xiao Wanru was a smart girl. Now it seemed that the kind of master had the same kind of servant. At this time, she was eating the offerings sent by Prince Chen's mansion. "Nanny Yu, take these away," Mrs. Jiang said to Nanny Yu, who followed her. "This." Nanny Yu looked at the table and frowned. She felt that such a large table was the most eyesore. She didn't know where Yu Jie found such a table. It shouldn't appear here in any case. "Madam," she was about to persuade Mrs. Jiang to remove the table. "Madam Jiang, this is a gift from our princess to Marquis Xing's mansion. Madam Jiang, do you dislike it?" Yu Jie suddenly interrupted her. Her smiling face immediately turned cold. The servant girls of Prince Chen's mansion, who had worked with her, also stared at Mrs. Jiang and Nanny Yu with an unfriendly face. Nanny Yu panicked and swallowed her saliva. She couldn't help coughing loudly. She covered her chest and turned to run outside, for fear of disturbing Princess Chen. "How can I dislike the things of your mansion? It's just that it's not appropriate now." Mrs. Jiang suppressed her anger and explained to a servant girl she used to despise the most. She had to lower her head under the eaves. She was no longer the madam of Duke Xing in the past. At this time, she had to bear with it even for the sake of her daughter. "It's not appropriate now. When will it be appropriate?" Yu Jie said unhappily. Her words were aggressive. "I mean to take it away first. When your princess recovers, we can use some together," Mrs. Jiang said with a kind and decent smile. Except that she was too thin, and her smile was a little bony and inexplicably depressed, she was still the madam of Marquis Xing in the past. "Our princess has already used it. Mrs. Jiang, you'd better use some first." Yu Jie suddenly picked up a plate of pastries on the table and sent it to Mrs. Jiang. "Mrs. Jiang, please." Although her words were polite, there was not much respect on her face. Being repeatedly pressured by a servant girl, Mrs. Jiang couldn't bear it at this time even though she could bear it. Her face darkened and she said, "How dare you? Leave now." "Mrs. Jiang, do you want to use it or not?" Yu Jie ignored her. She raised her eyebrows and looked at her fearlessly, as if she would force the pastries in her hand into her mouth if Mrs. Jiang gave a bad answer. Mrs. Jiang was furious. She reached out to point at Yu Jie and held back her curses, only uttering such a sound. "Mrs. Jiang, you are really in a good mood. You are sitting high at the spell conference, drinking tea and eating pastries. You are also reprimanding Princess Chen's servant girl. How impressive you are." A giggling voice could be heard, and Madame Jiang's heart skipped a beat. She immediately felt that something was wrong. Why would someone come over at this time? Shouldn't they all be blocked outside and only let people in to worship after the matter here was settled? Who was it that was so unruly? Looking back, she saw several servants of Marquis Xing's mansion standing behind a group of people. It was Infanta Yuan, who was smiling like stars around the moon. The servant girls and old maids behind her were also carrying sacrificial gifts in their hands. It could be seen that they were here to worship. Although Mrs. Jiang is an elder, you are nothing in front of Infanta Qinghua, right? How can you disrespect the dead and humiliate Princess Chen like this? Do you think that there is no one in the royal family? At this time, Infanta Yuan and also saw Xiao Wanru. With her face changing dramatically, she reached out to point at Xiao Wanru and said angrily. In terms of status before getting married, the two of them could be regarded as members of the royal family. Although their surnames were not Chu, they were both descendants of great elder princess. Xiao Wanru, who was knocking on the wooden fish, raised the corners of her mouth silently. Her long eyelashes moved slightly, and she opened her eyes slightly. She calmly glanced at the back of the offering table, which had moved without wind just now. There was someone there. After coming in, she found that there was someone there. Mrs. Jiang glanced over there from time to time. Although it was hidden, she saw it all. Calculating the time, Infanta Yuan, who wanted to make friends with her, should appear. Chapter 1000. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign /say, net wonderful pop-up window free reading. Princess Yuan. Madame Jiang struggled to get up. She wanted to bow to Princess Yuan, and before explaining. Madame Jiang, it seems that you have been punished by old Madame. Now you vent your anger on Princess Qin. Although Princess Qin is a junior, she is the daughter-in-law of the royal family and the granddaughter of Wu, and great elder princess. Why do you stare at her with such an attitude? She chants scriptures, but you not only drink tea and eat snacks leisurely, but also ridicule her openly and implicitly? Princess Yuan, and waved her hand and stopped Madame Jiang's explanation. She glanced at the surroundings and sneered. There were many people who came with her. They were all people who came to pay their respects today. These people had been treated in the main hall by the people of the Marquis's mansion and had behaved themselves. They did not expect that after Princess Yuan came, she would encourage some of them to follow her and barge in. They happened to see the scene before them. No matter how one looked at this scene, it seemed that Jiang Shi was humiliating Chen Wangfei. If Princess Chen was still the former 5th Miss Xiao, these people would not say much. At most, they would talk about Madame Jiang in private and say that she was cold and vicious. But now, it was different. Princess Chen's identity was different, and it was said that she was favored by the Empress Dowager. Madame Jiang, you've really gone too far. An elderly madam solemnly glanced at the scene before her. She frowned and voiced her support. Madame Jiang, how can you humiliate the identity of Prince Chen? Since someone started it, more people naturally helped Xiao Wanru. The current madam of Duke Xing was not the old madam of Duke Xing. I didn't. Madam of Jiang was angry and annoyed. For a moment, she couldn't explain clearly. She turned her head and looked at Yu Jie, who was standing on the side. How could she not understand that it was all this girl's trick? In front of everyone, she couldn't swallow this silent grievance, especially when it was done by a servant girl. But in the end, all the unwillingness in her eyes turned into malice. At this time, she could no longer act recklessly. Princess Qin asked the maids to serve me with these things. I wasn't mocking Princess Qin just now. I was advising her that kneeling for such a long time would harm her health. Madame Jiang struggled to stand up, then lowered her head and explained. Madame of Marquis Xing, do you really think so many of us are stupid? How could you lie to us like that? Princess Yuan, and sneered. Then she walked past Madame Jiang with a servant girl. When she was inside, she solemnly lowered her head and took 3 incense sticks from the servant girl. After bowing respectfully, she inserted the incense sticks into the incense burner. She took a few steps back and saw that Xiao Wanru was still chanting scriptures with her head down. The wooden fish in her heart kept knocking. She turned her eyes and looked at Yu Jie, who was serving beside her. What is your princess doing? With her sharp eyes, she could tell at a glance that Xiao Wanru was not doing an ordinary worship. Our princess is reading a set of reincarnation scripture for the crown prince and the infanta. I'm afraid she can't entertain the infanta and other madams. Yu Jie said in a low voice. Infanta Yuan and knew something about the reincarnation scripture, but it was usually recited by monks. Few family members read it by themselves. Since Xiao Wanru was reciting scriptures, she couldn't disturb her too much. She rolled her eyes slightly. Today, she came here to make friends with Xiao Wanru. Xiao Wenru was silent now, which made her feel a little awkward. Can I trouble you with something for our princess? Yu Jie hesitated and said in a low voice. What is it? Infanta Yuan, and was very happy to help Xiao Wenru at that time. Her grandma had made it very clear that she had to make friends with Xiao Wenru no matter what, and it was a must. Your Highness, can you please take Madame Jiang away? She is making noise and making a lot of trouble here, which will disturb our princess. She can't be interrupted when she is reciting the reincarnation scripture. Yu Jie lowered her head and said, I'm just a servant girl, so I don't dare to say these words. Okay, I'll help your princess take her away. After thinking for a while, Infanta Yuan agreed. Today, she suppressed all her thoughts and wholeheartedly helped Xiao Wenru. Since Xiao Wenru couldn't speak at this time, she would do it. The scene she saw when she came in really made Infanta Yuan unhappy. Madame Jiang was just the madam of a subject. Even if she had the title, so what? Could she be more important than the princess? How dare she despise the royal family like this? From this point of view, Infanta Yuan must be on Xiao Wenru's side. She would also be the princess in the future, which was also the dignity of the royal family. Walking to the door, Infanta Yuan looked at Madame of Duke Xing's mansion, who was still struggling to stand. She said coldly to the servants of Marquis Xing's mansion, Take your madam away. Do you want her to bully Princess Chen like this? The servants of Marquis Xing's mansion looked at each other and didn't know what to do at the moment. Your Highness, I just sat down for a while because my legs couldn't stand it. I didn't. Madame Jiang said anxiously. She needed Xiao Wenru's help today. The current situation would only make things worse. Madame Jiang, no matter what you say, I believe that no one will believe what you said. Infanta Yuan glanced at the huge tea table and the exquisite pastries on it. She twitched the corners of her mouth silently and looked coldly at Madame Jiang's face. Infanta Yuan, I really didn't. If you don't believe me. Madame Jiang turned around in a panic, as if she wanted to find support from others. The madams who came with her had offered incense one after another, but no one showed sympathy for her at this moment. Even those who had a good relationship with her in the past stayed away from her at this moment, as if they would be in big trouble if they met her. Not a single person stood up to speak up for her. Madame Jiang was angry and annoyed. Suddenly, she looked at the curtain behind the incense table, where there was a man from the Ministry of Justice. He must have seen what she had done just now. Your Highness, I can find someone to prove that I didn't humiliate Princess Chen. She blurted out, but she regretted it after saying it. Could the man over there appear? Xiao Wenru was facing the altar. Her long and curly eyelashes were raised slightly. From the outside, her eyes were still closed, but she could see from the bottom of her eyes that the curtain behind the altar table moved. Her eyes became deep. Her long eyelashes fluttered and then she slowly closed her eyes. Oh, who is it? Madame Jiang, please ask him to come out and explain. If he is a servant of Marquis Xing's mansion, forget it. Everyone knows that Madame Jiang has been in charge of Marquis Xing's mansion for 10 years. Infanta Yuan glanced at Madame Jiang and said with a little surprise. There was actually a witness at this time? Madame Jiang was speechless. How could she say that the man of the Ministry of Justice was behind the curtain behind the altar table? Moreover, he was a man. Greetings, Your Highness. A gentle voice came and interrupted Madame Jiang's struggle. It was Zhao Shiran. Before Zhao Shiran got married, she was one of the few noble ladies in the capital city, and she was not as generous as Xiao Yenru. She was a close friend of Infanta Yuan, but at this time, Infanta Yuan was not very willing to see Zhao Shiran. She came here today to help Xiao Wenru, so she would definitely stand opposite to Zhao Shiran. Shiran, you are too polite. Your Highness, why didn't you inform me that you were coming? I could have been with you early. Zhao Shiran said softly and told the man she brought here, Please ask Madam to go and have a rest. The doctor asked Madam to lie down for a long time. Otherwise, the injury will leave sequelae. Her words were very implicit, but the meaning in her words was stronger than the smell of Buddha incense, which was enough to prove that what she said was true. Xiao Wenru's eyes moved slightly, but she didn't open them. Compared with all the actions and words of Madame Jiang just now, Zhao Shiran was obviously much more powerful. Just these words had proved Madame Jiang's injury and her intention to come here on purpose. No one would come here with an injury to bully others. What was more, if the injury was not serious, it would leave sequelae. Compared with Madame Jiang, Zhao Shiran was calmer, better at adapting to the situation, and more difficult to deal with. At this time, Madame Jiang also came to her senses. She nodded at once, leaned against the maid who came to support her, and glanced at Xiao Wanru guiltily. She patted the maid's hand and motioned for her to help her come forward. She came to Xiao Wanru's side, bent down with difficulty, and said, "Princess Chen, I will go back to have a rest first. When I feel a little better, I will immediately come to recite scriptures with you." Xiao Wanru said nothing. After saying that, Madame Jiang stood up. Her face became paler and paler, and her body was on the verge of collapse, but she still held on. There were even small beads of sweat on her forehead. Judging from her expression and the smell of medicine, everyone could sense that she was holding on. Since she really held on, she should not be as arrogant and domineering as everyone had seen before. Did everyone see wrongly before, or did the maid of Prince Chen's mansion play tricks on her? Princess Chen couldn't speak now, but the maid could. Someone couldn't help turning to Yujie, who was standing beside Xiao Wanru. The good situation just now was disrupted by Zhao Shiran's words. Yujie had already received Xiao Wanru's hint and took a few sticks of incense beside Xiao Wanru. These were the offerings of Prince Chen's mansion, which were different from those prepared by Marquis Xing's mansion. After taking them in just now, she placed them behind Xiao Wanru. "Madame Jiang, I'm just a maid, and no one believes what I say. However, there are really a lot of strange things here today. One thing happened just now, and another thing happened now. I don't know how Marquis Xing's mansion will explain it." Yujie calmly lit the Buddha incense and inserted it into the incense burner in front of the offering table. Madame Jiang suddenly had a bad feeling. Zhao Shiran took 2 steps forward and said softly, "Yujie, don't talk nonsense. Fifth sister is still reciting the Reincarnation Sutra. Let's talk about it later." Her voice had always been soft, and even if she was reprimanding someone, it was not obvious. However, she used to talk to Madam and Miss, but now she was just a maid. She was really arrogant to talk to a maid so politely and softly. Many people felt indignant for her. Even Infanta Yuan, and showed some displeasure on her face. Xiao Wanru was really not a good person. Look at the maid beside her, they were all domineering. She was just a little maid, but she dared to criticize the former master in her words. Yujie suddenly took 2 steps forward, walked quickly behind the offering table, reached out her hand, and pulled it down hard. Chapter 1001. Madame of Jiang was shocked and rebuked angrily. "What do you want to do?" Before she finished speaking, the curtain behind the offering table had been pulled down by Yujie. There was a person behind the curtain, and it was a young man. He covered his face with his sleeves in embarrassment. For a moment, no one could see who he was. "Madame Jiang, why is there someone behind the offering table? I didn't dare to say it when I found it alone. It happened that Yuan, an commandery princess, and several noble madams were here, so I said it presumptuously. Madame Jiang, do you want to murder our princess? Or do you want to ruin our princess's reputation again?" Yujie took a step back and made way for the people behind her to see it clearly. There was a man behind the offering table, and he looked like a young man. The madam's eyes fell on Madame of Jiang and then turned to Zhao Shiran. This time, not only Madame of Jiang was suspicious, but Zhao Shiran was also suspicious. After all, she was in charge of the family now, not Madame of Jiang. Zhao Shiran had always had a good reputation, but now she had married into Marquis Xing's mansion and was Madame of Jiang's legitimate daughter-in-law. Of course, she was on Madame of Jiang's side because of interests. Could it be that this was a conspiracy between Madame of Jiang and her mother-in-law? If it was said that Princess Chen brought a man in and hid him behind the offering table, no one would believe it. Marquis Xing's mansion was not Princess Chen's territory. Before she got married, it was said that Princess Chen did not live a good life in Marquis Xing's mansion. She was a poor girl, so it was impossible for her to hide someone in Marquis Xing's mansion as she wanted. To say the least, even if she wanted to hide him, would Princess Chen hide him in Prince Chen's mansion? At present, she was the only master in Prince Chen's mansion. Why did she hide someone in Marquis Xing's mansion? Madame of Jiang was sweating profusely. This time, she was so anxious that the handkerchief in her hand was almost twisted into a rope. She gritted her teeth and said hurriedly, "I don't know where this man came from." "Madam, do you really not know? When our princess came here just now, there were only Madame of Jiang and a few servants here. When did this man go in?" "If Madame of Jiang didn't know, who else would know?" Yu Jie said coldly. Although she was a maid, it was most reasonable for a personal maid to speak for Xiao Wanru when she couldn't make a sound now. Jiang Shi moved her lips and wanted to speak, but her hand was grabbed by Zhao Shiran. "Mother, let's see who this person is and why he is here." Yes, let him tell us why he is here." Madame Jiang immediately understood and nodded repeatedly. Everyone looked at the man who was covering his face with his sleeves. Hearing the commotion, the man knew he couldn't hide anymore, so he let go of his sleeves awkwardly. Several people present immediately recognized that it was Qiu Yu of the Ministry of Justice. He was the youngest son of Count Liang. Count Liang was now the left assistant minister of the Ministry of War, and Qiu Yu himself held a position in the Ministry of Justice. He was considered a very good young talent among the young masters of the aristocratic families. Many madams of the aristocratic families had thought of marrying their daughters to him. "Lord Qiu, why are you here?" Princess Yuan, and also recognized him and asked with a frown. "Lord Qiu, didn't you say that you just wanted to ask about the case? Why haven't you left yet?" Zhao Shiran also looked surprised. Obviously, she also recognized Qiu Yu. Although Xiao Wanru didn't open her eyes, she sneered in her heart. Zhao Shiran's words solved the doubts of Qiu Yu and Madame Jiang. As expected, the eyes of Qiu Yu, who had been in a panic, immediately lit up. Although he still smiled a little awkwardly, he was no longer the same as before. He bowed to the people around him and said, "I'm really modest. In order to show off the case, I deliberately hid here. After that, I couldn't leave even if I wanted to. Your Excellency Qiu is really amazing to have investigated the case to this point." The smile on Zhao Shiran's face faded. No one would be happy to find out this kind of thing, not to mention that it led to so many troubles. "I'm modest. It's really a business matter, so I have to do this. I hope First Grandma can forgive me." Qiu Yu's attitude was very good, and he bowed to Zhao Shiran again. "Your Excellency Qiu, you didn't offend me, but my mother-in-law and Princess Chen. Because of you, my mother-in-law was suspected by Princess Chen and thought that my mother-in-law was going to harm her," Zhao Shiran said coldly. "This matter is indeed my fault. I will apologize to Princess Chen." Qiu Yu bowed deeply again. "Your Excellency Qiu, you made me misunderstood by Princess Chen again. If I hadn't made it clear on the spot just now, Princess Chen would have thought that it was my fault again, just like the last misunderstanding." Madame Jiang took the opportunity to shed tears and said with grievance, "Did this mean that what Wang Xingxue said in the news from the Ministry of Justice was false?" Several madams looked at each other but did not say anything. It was inconvenient for them to speak before they found out the truth of the matter. This matter seemed to be a bit mysterious. Was it true or false? Qiu Yu walked up to Xiao Wanru, bowed deeply to Xiao Wanru, and then said shamefully, "Princess Chen, I heard that Marquis Xing's mansion was going to perform religious rites for heir of Duke and Infanta today, so I deliberately sneaked in and wanted to hear what everyone said in private. Now I hide behind the altar table. If I disturb Princess Chen, please forgive me. I can't help myself in the Ministry of Justice." He couldn't help himself in the Ministry of Justice. Xiao Wanru sneered secretly. She had some doubts at first, but now she figured out many things. Yes, it was Qiu Yu. As a member of the Ministry of Justice, Qiu Yu's identity was different from that of ordinary members of the Ministry of Justice. He occasionally went to the Imperial Palace and fell in love with Xiao Yanru. Such a person was just right for Xiao Yanru. Xiao Yanru might not have seen Qiuyu at that time, but it was different now. Qiuyu was also one of the few straws she could grasp. With Xiao Yanru's character, of course, she would hold all the straws in her hand, and Qiuyu was one of them. If Xiao Yanru hadn't schemed behind her back, Qiuyu wouldn't have been involved in this mess. When they were in the Yuhui nunnery, she had seen Qiuyu's obsession with Xiao Yanru. Now she suddenly understood what she couldn't figure out in the past. If Xiao Yanru wanted to spread the news in the Imperial Palace, Qiuyu was the most suitable person. Now Qiuyu had turned the tables on her. Since it was a major event of the Ministry of Justice to try a case for the country, although it was not good for Qiuyu to hide now, it didn't mean that there was something wrong with his character. If she was a sensible person, she would definitely forgive him. After all, he did it for official business. As a noble young master, he would lose face if he did such a thing. Qiuyu did hide to eavesdrop today, but he was eavesdropping on Xiao Yanru. Just now, when Madame of Duke Xing led Xiao Yanru to speak, Qiuyu would write down whatever Xiao Yanru said and even figure out other meanings from it as evidence. Of course, he was trying to please Xiao Yanru. He turned out to be an infatuated man. However, she really hated this infatuated man. She had met Qiuyu before. At that time, she thought he was loyal to his duty, but now she felt that he was really self-righteous. Xiao Yanru was already the emperor's woman. Xiao Yanru was already the emperor's woman. Why did he think that he could still love Xiao Yanru and be with her? He was a useless and daring man. Now he even turned the tables on her and thought that she had to accept it. She couldn't do anything about it. With the Ministry of Justice's reputation, even if she was Princess Chen, she couldn't dare to meddle in the affairs of the Ministry of Justice, could she? The wooden fish in her hand didn't stop, and she gently chanted the scripture, ignoring Qiuyu. Princess Chen, I apologize to you. I hope you can forgive me. It's all my fault. After Prince Chen returns to the capital city, I will definitely come to apologize to you. Seeing that Xiao Wanru didn't respond to him, Qiuyu bowed deeply again and lowered his head respectfully. His words were even more gentle. Prince Chen was not in the capital city now, so it was indeed inconvenient for him, a man, to visit Princess Chen. Your Excellency, please go back first. Our princess is chanting the reincarnation scripture and can't be interrupted. But our princess will definitely forgive you. You used to have a good relationship with the first Mississippi. You even helped the first miss in the Yuhui nunnery. Our Princess Chen is also grateful for your kindness. Yu Jie bowed to Qiuyu on behalf of Xiao Wanru and said softly. He had a relationship with Xiao Yanru? The madams present were all stunned. Xiao Yanru was now just a woman who had fallen out of favor. There were a lot of rumors circulating in aristocratic families. Although they did not spread to the streets, most of them had heard that Xiao Yanru was not a good woman and had hooked up with several princes, so she was put aside in the cold palace. The emperor had never touched her. In the past, when Xiao Yanru had a good reputation, no one would think badly of anyone who had a relationship with her. Now that they knew that she was not as beautiful as she appeared to be, many people had secretly speculated whether she really had the intention of hooking up with other men. As soon as Yu Jie said that, everyone's eyes fell on Qiuyu and they secretly speculated. They really didn't know that Xiao Yanru had a relationship with Qiuyu in the past. It seemed that the first Miss Xiao, who had been famous in the capital city, was indeed not a good woman if she was Xiao Baolin. Qiuyu's face turned red, and then turned pale. At last he became angry. He slowly raised his head, looked at Yu Jie coldly and said, even if you are Princess Chen's maid, you can't talk nonsense. Otherwise, you will be punished by the law. How could he let others know about his relationship with Xiao Yanru? Your Excellency, what did I say wrong? Yu Jie looked confused, as if she hadn't figured out how she had offended Qiuyu with what she had said just now. You are just a little maid. Don't talk if you don't know anything. I am investigating a case now, and it is a case of the Ministry of Justice. Even if I have offended Princess Chen a little, it is not something that you, a maid, can bear. Step aside. If you continue to talk nonsense, you will be punished by the law. Qiuyu shouted harshly, flung his sleeves backward with the wind, and said in a stern voice. At this time, he also regretted helping the Jiang family. Not only did he not get any useful information, but he was also implicated and even exposed by a little girl. The loss outweighed the gain. He'd better stay far away from Marquis Xing's mansion next time and avoid getting involved in the mess of Marquis Xing's mansion. Compared with Marquis Xing's mansion, he had never cared about Marquis Xing's mansion, but Xiao Yanru. Since Xiao Yanru had entered the Imperial Palace, there was no need for him to get involved in Marquis Xing's mansion. After rebuking him, he wanted to leave in the name of the Ministry of Justice because he didn't want to stay and fight. However, before he moved, he was stopped by a voice. "Your Excellency, you are wrong." Chapter 1002. Infanta Yuan and came here to help Xiao Wanru today, and she had to help Xiao Wanru see clearly and understand her intention. Qiuyu came out too unexpectedly. She watched him for a while and then stopped Qiuyu. She could tell that Qiuyu was going to leave. Xiao Wanru couldn't speak at the moment, and her personal maid was reprimanded, but no one spoke up for her. Now it was the right time to let Xiao Wanru see her sincerity. It was Infanta Yuan and who spoke, so Qiuyu naturally didn't dare to offend her. He hurriedly lowered his head and said respectfully, "Nice to meet you, Infanta Yuan. Your Excellency, you have a close relationship with Xiao Baolin, so you can't help the Jiang family just because of this. I heard that the Jiang family asked a nephew of Marquis Xing's mansion to frame Princess Chen, and there is factual evidence. Is it possible that you feel suspicious, so you hide behind the curtain and intend to collect evidence? Then, do you have any strong evidence to prove that Madame Jiang is innocent?" Infanta Yuan and said with fervor and assurance. There were some words that others didn't dare to say, but she could. Her words added another layer to Yu Jie's words, which almost meant that the relationship between Qiuyu and Xiao Yanru was not simple. Qiuyu came here today to help the Jiang family. Why did he help the Jiang family? Of course, it was because the Jiang family was Xiao Yanru's biological mother. "Your Excellency, please be careful with your words." Hearing her words, Qiuyu felt his scalp tingle and hurriedly said. She implied that he couldn't accept it. Xiao Yanru was now the emperor's woman, so he couldn't ignore her status in Baolin. Thinking that his beloved woman was now living alone in the Imperial Palace, Qiuyu felt angry and distressed. At this moment, he inexplicably became a little more annoyed with Infanta Yuan. In the past, Infanta Yuan had a very good relationship with Xiao Yanru. Now in order to please Princess Chen, she even humiliated Xiao Yanru. What a hypocritical woman. "Your Excellency, this girl is just a maid of Princess Chen. Princess Chen is chanting scriptures now, so we can't disturb her here. Why don't we go outside to talk and ask you why you came here and what you heard just now? Your Excellency's trip won't be in vain." Infanta Yuan had always been decent. Although she said this in favor of Xiao Wanru, she was still generous. They all thought it was a good idea. Since everyone thought so, Zhao Xiran had no choice but to take Qiuyu, Madame Jiang, and a group of people to the living room outside. This was obviously not a place to talk. After everyone left, the two servant girls left by Marquis Xing's mansion also went outside to serve Xiao Wanru. Xiao Wanru slowly opened her eyes and looked out of the door coldly. "Your Highness," Yu Jie whispered angrily. "What's wrong with Lord Qiu? How could he hide inside?" "If your Highness hadn't reminded me, I wouldn't have known that there was a person hiding inside. First Miss has entered the Imperial Palace. Could it be that he still wants Xiao Xiang?" Yu Jie didn't like Qiuyu very much. Qiuyu had helped eldest Miss in those things. Although he didn't do it on purpose, eldest Miss wouldn't have gotten away so easily if it hadn't been for him. Now, she was involved with the Jiang family. Yu Jie wouldn't believe that it had nothing to do with the first Mississippi. Xiao Wanru shook her head and said calmly, "Do you smell the medicine on Madame Jiang? How many kinds of medicine can you distinguish?" "I can distinguish 4 or 5 kinds of medicine that are commonly used. These kinds of medicine with such a strong smell don't have much effect on healing. In reality, it doesn't have much of a healing effect. It's just that the smell is very strong. It must have been the Marquis Fu who deliberately made so many smells to indicate that Jiang Furen's injuries were caused by the Wangfei." Yu Jie became more and more angry. The acting was too fake. It was true that Madame Jiang was injured, but there was no need to use so many kinds of medicine. At first glance, it was obvious that the medicine was not for healing. They just deliberately made the medicine smell stronger and made people feel that their princess was too aggressive. Invite the imperial physician. Xiao Wanru nodded. She could also distinguish these kinds of medicine, and there was a faint smell of medicine. If what she guessed was true, it was really worth studying. Invite the imperial physician? Yu Jie didn't keep up with Xiao Wanru's thoughts and was stunned for a moment. They are all fake. The smell of medicine is so strong, but it's useless, which will definitely make people doubt the intention of Marquis Xing's mansion. I came here today to represent the weakness, so I have to follow the arrangement of Marquis Xing's mansion. But if the Empress Dowager in the Imperial Palace intervenes, old Madame can't do anything even if she wants to. Madame Jiang has other intentions, which can be distinguished by the smell of medicine. Of course, only an imperial physician who is proficient in the smell of medicine can do it. Xiao Wanru ordered. Yu Jie understood and nodded repeatedly. Your Highness, I'll invite the imperial physician later. Wait a little longer. I can't faint as soon as they leave. Xiao Wanru said slowly. Marquis Xing's mansion had set up a trap for her, but she had to come. However, it was not impossible to solve the trap. Infanta Yuan was an important part of it. Even though Infanta Yuan wished that she could die, she had to help her at this time. With Infanta Yuan's help, Xiao Wanru didn't have to show up. Ask the imperial physician to distinguish the smell of Madame Jiang's medicine. There seems to be a smell of medicine, but it doesn't seem to be there. Xiao Wanru said in a low voice. The imperial physician of the Imperial Institute of Medicine should be able to distinguish it. She suddenly thought of something and stopped talking. Did Madame Jiang really think of such a strong smell of medicine on her body? Or was there someone in the mansion who knew medicine? She inexplicably thought of a habitual action of Zhao Shiran. Did she want to feel her pulse at that time? Could it be possible that Zhao Shiran also knew medicine? This idea was very strange, but it inexplicably stuck in her heart. Some small details were the easiest to reveal the truth. Yu Jie, did you make a calming sachet before? Did you take it with you? I did. Yu Jie reached out to take off the sachet hanging at her waist and handed it to Xiao Wanru, in the living room, Infanta Yuan, and was sitting in the first seat. She had the most distinguished status, but Zhao Shiran was sitting beside her. Madame Jiang, who was supposed to accompany her the most, looked pale. At first glance, it seemed that she couldn't hold on, so she sat beside Zhao Shiran. Several madams in the guest seats on the other side also sat down. Qiu Yu wanted to leave, but it was not convenient for him to do so at this time. After everyone sat down, the servant girl served tea and left. Infanta Yuan looked at Qiu Yu and said with a serious face, Your Excellency, please tell me what you saw just now. There are several virtuous and respectable madams here, and it would be best if they could bear witness to what you have said. Except for Xiao Wanru, Infanta Yuan, had always been generous and fair. At this time, she asked in a deep voice, which was very like a great elder princess. Your Excellency, please tell me the truth. Zhao Shiran also said with a slight smile. Yes, Your Excellency, just tell me what you saw and heard just now. Speaking of which, Princess Consort Chen's servant girl forced me to eat pastries. I clearly had good intentions before, but that servant girl took advantage of Princess Consort Chen's power to bully me like this. Madame Jiang also interrupted. She had been very aggrieved just now. It was this bitch Yu Jie who had given her pastries, but why did everyone suspect her of acting domineeringly? As long as Qiu Yuning pointed it out, she could use it to turn the tables and implicate Xiao Wanru. Thinking of the excitement, she didn't care about her injuries and urged, Your Excellency, please tell me the truth. Infanta Yuan and several madams will definitely uphold justice. You arrived early, so you can see it clearly. Seeing her acting like this, Zhao Shiran was so angry that he secretly pulled his handkerchief a few times. This granny used to be slick, but now he didn't know whether she had become stupid after living in the nunnery. At this time, she still acted as if it was reasonable, as if she had long known that Qiu Yu was hiding inside. Your Excellency, Please tell me the truth. Zhao Shiran had to interrupt Madame Jiang. If he let her go on, he didn't know what she would say. Madam, I'm really sorry. I didn't see it. Qiu Yu shook his head and said with a bitter smile helplessly. He really didn't see it. At that time, Yu Jie had her back to him, so he didn't see all Yu Jie's actions clearly. Moreover, she was just a servant girl. He had been paying attention to Xiao Wanru and Princess Chen, so he didn't notice the interaction between a servant girl and Madame Jiang. Madame Jiang seemed to have suffered a heavy blow, and her joy turned stiff. She said word by word, "Your Excellency, did you see it clearly?" There was a pleading look in her eyes. As long as Qiu Yu said the word, yes, ambiguously, she could use it as a pretext to make a fuss. Even if she couldn't deal with Xiao Wanru, she could kill this loyal servant girl here. No matter what, she was Madam of Marquis Xing and Xiao Wanru's elder. For these two reasons, Xiao Wanru's servant girl could not be too presumptuous. Qiu Yu lowered his eyes. Of course, he understood what Madame Jiang meant, but he really didn't see it at that time, and he didn't think that a servant girl would treat Madame Jiang like this. Madame Jiang's words sounded very fake, and she even asked him to make a false testimony. He had caused a lot of trouble today, so at this time, he should be more impartial. It was easy for people who stayed in the Ministry of Justice to distinguish what was important at this time. Madame Jiang was not Xiao Yanru, so he didn't need to spend too much energy to protect her. Madame Jiang, I saw it clearly. The servant girl just invited you to drink tea and eat cakes. I really didn't see anything else. Qiu Yu said apologetically. If he didn't see it, he didn't dare to say anything. Moreover, if he said it, Princess Chen would be involved. At this time, he should keep a low profile. Your Excellency, how could you not see it? She was there. It was that bitch. At that time, there were not many people, so she. Madame Jiang was not convinced and stood up uncontrollably in anger. Mother, sit down and talk first. Don't worry. Does your head still hurt? Take it easy, take it easy. Zhao Shiran reached out to hold Madame Jiang, who was out of control, and said softly. After pulling her to sit down, she personally served a cup of tea to her with gentle eyes. Madame Jiang was so confused, and now she had no other way. Her words seemed to have a strange effect, comforting the furious Madame Jiang. Madame Jiang sat down and drank the tea obediently. When she put down the cup, she looked very calm. She reached out to touch her head and said, I have a headache, as if I suddenly became agitated. I don't know what happened. I was fine before. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.